Welcome, welcome, welcome. Here we go, here we go. We got the lion on the tree. We got some company gonna march. It's October the 22nd, Wednesday. We're gonna march towards the sun. We're just gonna go check out the fridge in the community and gonna march towards that Citoyen, the King, the Pope. It's a rainy day here in Montreal, encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. And working out, training, exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. I got this raincoat, thank you to my anonymous friend, and was a bit moody, but not that moody, slightly. Feel much better now when I go out. I'm gonna go in the sun, and if I get a little bit of sun, that cleared that road, because yesterday we went to the mountain and I left a little bit later today, a few hours later than yesterday. And of course, if we leave, if it's October, November, December, January, February, you know, I got a different policy. Usually when if it's after 4 or even after 3 and I leave later, I go to towards the sun to get as much sun as I can. Or if it's the other way, if it's before 3, I go to the mountain, you know. So it's always something which kind of differs. It's a pattern. There's a kind of regular with some, I guess, more weird, strange, awkward, bizarre SPS because of this neurodivergent, you know, these type of ritual-like routines which I have to kind of do repetitive routines on a daily, and have been doing them for years and years and years and years. And it's working out, training, exercising, it's fitness, it's of course analysis of geopolitics, it's of course rock and roll. And gonna go right towards the sun. I think it's gonna clear a little bit. What do you say? Beautiful clouds there, see how they intergo. Right above there's clouds, but there's parts sunny there, you know, so it's always something which we have to take care of right here. Or, you know, even if you have the pedestrian cross like there, see, for example, here, still here enough for my face enough, so even then it's best if you proceed to turn your heads left and right anyways, right? Turn your heads left and right. That's what I recommend, you know. Think about it, you know, because the brakes might malfunction, potentially the electricity of the brakes might malfunction. The citizen driver could potentially press the accelerator instead of the brakes. So those are all possibility of occurrence. They can possibly occur when you're in the public. And those beautiful red leaves, I got that beautiful autumn there, and you get those 3 pumpkins to go along with it in an artistic manner. And see how my N.A.C.W.P brain is inclined a lot towards mathematics. I was trying to calculate the distance, estimate the distance, and the ratio of the distance, it seems to be double. So if that pumpkin is A and that pumpkin is B, that pumpkin is C, that means there's from A to B there's a distance, from B to C there's a distance. And it seems like from A to B, let's say it's X, it seems like from B to C it's double X or 2X's. 2X, if you follow what I'm saying a bit. And this is a constant thing with me, as I've discussed it in my journeys, as I put these steps for the ones who got laid off, always in Canada, United States, always for the 63, the 10, the 50, and the 3, you know. I definitely know what it is to be unemployed and struggling with unemployment due to my neurological mental divergent condition known as Asperger's, HFA, high-functioning autism. And, you know, look at these beauties here, beauties. What are you chanting? Some rock and roll song, as I am that rock and roll, in a circle with a ghost, and the children are gonna love it. Halloween's a Friday, and look at that. There's a nice gargoyle there, and look at that beautiful red. Isn't that nice? And the youth are just love freely there and safely, and they're having fun playing with each other. That's what's worth defending also, you know. There's security, liberty, and joy here, as I enjoy too. Isn't that just beautiful? I just love it. I gotta post a little bit. This is just gorgeous here. It's just a beautiful, there's such a beauty here, just amazing. As you know, my marches, I always point a little bit of flowers that are very colorful in nature, very vibrant, very alive, and those certainly are, make me quadruple my smile right there, you know. So that's always integral for that point. And you know, this is what it's a nice occurrence here, you know. It's a, oh, see, you got some more Halloween there, see. Nice, I like those. Those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Usually they were put, I think last time they were put like in a scale from the biggest to the smallest, like, you know, going up. In the past videos, I think now they brought them down. So, oh yeah, definitely alive. Isn't that just gorgeous? Excuse me, it's alive. Such a vivid red, my favorite color, what I said. And I have that red backpack. always wear something red usually, and that's something when we have to do. There's another one there. Let's go take a look there. Oh yeah, we're gonna explore some other way, definitely. The witch. Hey, you didn't follow you got stuck in a tree there, hey? Hey, the witch got stuck in a tree, going up and looking at me. Turn your head left and right when you cross the street to get out of sight. I love the colors, Halloween, you know what I bring, I mean machines. Rock and roll is all I know, boo! Please, I wanted to see the reduction of the candies, I like that. Being part of the LGBTQ community, the rainbow is kind of cool on the unicorn, eh? Because I'm both part of the androgynous pansexual. I'm androgynous pansexual and LGBTQ and the neurodivergent community. I have Asperger's, and it has been certainly a journey. I mentioned it, I discuss it in my videos. It's not something that I'm ashamed of anymore, and that I have to cover the stigma, because I know I have my less capabilities. I don't use the word disability, although in some senses there certainly is. I don't get special money. I never received special money from the government for being an Asperger's autistic. It's just I'm always working in many ways independently. All my work, of course, is especially in the not just the rock and roll artistic and geopolitics, and of my fitness journey. Look at that. Hey, drop the weapon, drop the weapon, drop the weapon. I put your hands up and I say freeze. You know I gotta sneeze when I eat some candy just like this. Oh yeah, I rock and roll. That's basically what I do. And this one is really nice. Look at that. Got the king there waiting for the king of the dragons, but he's waiting for somebody else to take the throne, not by hereditary means, because nobody's born a dragon, you become one. You know how we rock and roll with the dragon army, pledge your legions. Nobody is born a dragon, you become one. And those 4 pumpkins, see, they're naturally carved, 1, 2, 3, and 4. See, they all have different facial expressions, and that one seems like a vampiric one, like a vampire one, eh? They're all cool there. It's very nice. See, exactly like this one, the other one was stacked up over there, but I think they kind of took it separately. I think you can separate them. So, oh, and a big spider there, quite cool. Hey, super cool, eh? And there's one there, which I like. So I wish I would have seen the reduction of the cost of the candies. You know, the candies. It's still time, millionaires, billionaires, corporation. Let's go the big 3 of Canada. If you don't know, here we have 3 major grocery stores, actually corporations that dominate the food industry in many ways. The grocery stores and are mostly dominated by the 3. And it's funny because sometimes fellow brothers and sisters from Canada say, you know, I don't go shop at Loblaws, I go to Maxi, and I laugh. I say, well, Maxi is actually owned by Loblaws. As a parent, it's just a little bit of an illusion, you know. And somebody says the other day, I don't go to Metro, I go to Super C, and I laugh. I smile. I say, well, you know that Super C is actually owned by Metro Inc. Corporation. I said, oh yeah, really? Yeah, really. It's just a little bit of an illusion. Some people know, some people don't, some more than others. I don't know the proportionality of the statistics in the matter such as this, but it's of course something to meditate, you know, because sometimes we need to take some action, especially in the growing cost of living. It seems that there's just non-stop. They keep going up. They keep going up, you know, so that is the problematic, myself included, you know. I gotta be grateful, thankful, gotta start commence this march with gratitude. Always turn your heads left and right when you cross the street, you know, because you never know. Although here, see, there's no stop going. See, that car is going east coming from the west, so the stop is only north-south. So here they have a stop, they have to stop for a few seconds. Right here at the corner there's a stop sign, and on both sides there's only one way. However, see, that car doesn't have to stop when they come to there, see, and that car doesn't have to stop. So here is a little bit of a dangerous corner, because you see this car doesn't have to stop. However, this cars, when they come here, that's a stop sign there, it says arrêt. See, in English, it's just in French actually. It's just in French, but that's basically what it says. Arrêt says stop. So there they have to stop, right? I'm not sure I'm going to vote, see? So basically that's a stop sign. If you come in Quebec, you have to stop for a few seconds. That's what that sign says. It's French, you know? Arrêt, French. So that's how we rock and roll here. French in La Belle Province. We love that French. And that's how we, just if you're a tourist here, you know that that sign means to stop. Just stop for a few seconds and be safely. But There would be, if you come in Quebec, we should have, you know, to give those information to drivers. That would be something I guess we could do as the government for safety, you know, to just know that we have the French language here, which we love, and we have bilingual, and we always we made what I call the great linguistic compromise, and we continue to do so. See, but now the cars can come from there, and I just want to say thank you to the public workers. Every time I pass by here, I point them on the camera, and aren't they just super alive, super lovely, eh? Look at these, they look alive, they give me so much joy. There's so much joy here, you know. Thank you to the workers, because they sweated a bit, they put their hands in the dirt, and thank you to the public workers who embellished these, you know, in the great garden we have there. And please don't leave trash in the garden. Often I pick up, and you know, you got my yellow still standing, eh? Still standing, still standing, still standing. Still standing, man. It's still standing, you know? So, just like the sun and the forgotten goddess, I guess, eh? Those pyramids. Bury me in Papa Crawley pyramids every 11 years. Bury me first year in the top of the mountain, Belvedere, Conjuring at the back, Montreal, Belvedere, and then, of course, every 11 years send me in the city of the pyramids in Hampton, New Jersey, and then do that rotation, you know? Do a rotation, so I guess we're gonna do that 11-year rotation cyclicality with that. And that's gonna be that roundup, and I just love this beauty. See how it spreads out? Just a beautiful work of art. In many ways, the Mother Nature is the greatest artist and scientist, and I wonder how much it weighs, the weight of it. There's a height and weight, eh, and volume. Here we got a little bit of more ghost down here, so please reduce the cost of the candies ASAP, especially the three main ones which dominate. But of course it goes integrally from the big corporations who actually sold the candy for a price, right, for deals. And definitely after Halloween you see that the prices go down. They get that reduction by 50%. But yeah, we got some Halloween for the children, some demons, and that's how we're gonna get to play. I don't think they were demons though. Were they? Yeah, maybe. All different Halloween themes. And you got some little witches there, or ballerinas. I'm not a witch. I'm a priestess. Love that red, scarlet, green. It for the dancing goddess army. Always for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, electricians, the plumbers, the welders. Yeah, there is kind of a witch. I'm not a witch myself. It's 4 witches. Not a witch myself. I'm a priestess. As you know, I believe in reincarnation. Sometimes was born in my previous incarnations' lives. I was born as a man, a woman, a woman, a man, a woman, a man, a woman, a man, man, a woman. Beautiful yellow in the corner. A man, a woman, man, several past lives incarnations. That you get that 50-50 now. Turn your heads left and right before you cross the streets. And these ones I gotta show off again. Thank you, public workers, again. Aren't they just what? Salute. Thank you so much. Embellishing here the public, and these ones are just gorgeous, just so alive, full of life, eh? They just give me an ambience and a joy, put a smile on my face, you know. They're probably singing something, but we don't kind of understand what that, but that's just something that we have now. So here you can, if you know how to cook these, you can place a little bit of that cooking and do a little bit of that cooking with that, see? And this has to be stayed closed. It's a food not just for me, for you, for us. And see, you got a little bit of that 90. Beautiful fridge here, so it's always something what you got. Now it's empty. I wish I could fill it up, you know. Just if I would have money now, I'd fill it up. Grain, what is that? Kernel corn whole. Individually quick, cooked early. It has to be cooked though, eh? Oh, slow cook it. Maybe I could slow cook it. Product of Canada, best before. Oh, he passed by a year, eh? Passed by a year. But the best before is not the same as the seeds from last year, best before, but it can still be cooked. Probably it can still be cooked. So do you have to cook it? That's my instruction. It says you're cooked early, bon, keep frozen. So you have to cook it or boil it, I guess. So cooking or boil it. So whole kernel, big format. I'm gonna leave it for somebody else because I got bread at home, and I don't think I'm gonna use the slow cooker anytime soon. But actually, probably maybe over the weekend, because I like to slow cook, you know. I really like to slow cook, so that is something which I really enjoy doing. And sometimes I take best before products, you know. Best before, the date has passed, and of course I take it Of course, the date passes, but I take it and it's still good. That one's still good. Sometimes I even take best before like that, like a year has passed, or 6 months has passed, or some months have passed. You know, so I just want to pass and see that big. I'm not sure what that is, you know. That caught my attention. I'm gonna be careful to cross the street prudently here in Montreal Island at the Hawk Island as I freestyle on this march, dancing rock and roll always for the firefighters, truckers, construction workers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the plumbers, the electricians. And I almost feel like taking, you know, when I come back, if it's still there, I'll take it. I'll make that deal. If it's still there when I come back, I'll take it and I'll cook it, and you check my updates. But if not, if nobody takes it by the time I come back and it's still there, then I'm gonna cook it next time. So it's slow cooking basically, so you can slow cook if you want it. I would love to. I have very good recipes. I create recipes of slow cooking. Let's turn your heads left and right. Some of them are posted even online. This is what I wanted to see. Hey, this is big. Who are you? So tall. Who are you so tall? Them Nephilim. You know, gotta pose that rock and roll. It's got a little bit of the art, you know? Looks like it died dancing, you know, like some dance moves. Yeah, it's really nice. I certainly wasn't expecting it there, but came out of nowhere in many ways, you know. Kind of look artistic, almost like it just finished the performance and kind of inclined in many ways. And kind of cool. I don't know, it's just... Sorry, coming on your right side. So, of course, all those... are to say, of course, that the dimension. Please don't drop trash here like that. See, this is nice garden here, and just the trash, put it in the garbage. You know, this is public, is for all of us. See, so sometimes when I see trash here like that, just put it in the garbage. Don't drop it here in the flowers. You know, put it in the recycling. You know, and that's gonna get that rock and roll for that. You know, see there, that's what it is with that. And it smells good here. I'm gonna traverse. See, these are also nice. I have no idea what these are, but they're very nice and blue, eh? Almost look a bit like illegal cannabis. I'm not sure what their names are. They're nice. It's the public workers. You put them here, and of course these yellow ones, which I like a lot. You know, I like a lot with that. But see, this. Don't put that there. See, this is plastic there. This is the garden for all. See. Garden for all, see, right here. And this black bag there, that gotta go, see? Another one. See, you don't leave, this is public, you know? This is public. You don't leave that trash there, see? I'm gonna find here a whole garbage and trash there, you know? Oh, another one, see? Oh, yeah, that's trash, man. Too much trash here, you know, so that is just something which we have now to be, of course, what we got now to get now doing, and that is, of course, all the dimensions what we have now, man. See, look at that. That's not cool. That's not cool. So that, of course, not being cool, of course, is, of course, because what does it do? Kills the flowers, you know. So don't leave that there. See, this could have killed it. Would have. If it was snow and it snows, it goes into the ground and then it all dilutes, you know. So, yeah, and that's public, you know. So, you see part of my videos, I go often to the mountain. I've been doing their cleaning individually for years and years and years. And, of course, it takes the individual. It takes the individual effort like that to do with the principality. The principle, you know, is in the public. So, it belongs to all of us. That's why it's a mass public-private partnership. That's why we have to rebalance. You know, I know the scales have been tipped towards the private and the private. We gotta my idea is to rebalance the public as well, but it takes the citizen initiative for service for the public to maintain it. So it's not just to be too overly academic and intellectual, scholarly, philosophical about it, because I certainly can be, and that's not necessarily always to a benefit. It could always harm me, as I assume that it did in the past, but even the present, because sometimes you have to formulate the philosophical, intellectual capabilities with action as well, right? Because it requires some action just to remove the trash and to make sure that you, of course, that you are inclined, of course, in the matters where you got them now. So, of course, all that proposition is to say, of course, intellectually, that the bottom line is that we must avert to put trash like this when it doesn't go, where it doesn't go. So just, in other words, just recycle it, you know. So I was a bit upset, but I'm kind of gotten used to doing, you know, the individual work. You see in many videos, these are gorgeous as well. See here also. So this is public, right? This is public. All here is public. All here is public, you know. I'm laughing because I know I'm weird, you know. I know I'm strange, bizarre, but, and you know, it's certainly suffered a lot with Asperger's, and sometimes I just stare at objects intensely, or even at people, you know. I don't mean to, but that is something which we have now to do. So those are just the things which gotta be afforded about, and I don't want to bother my cousin there and uncle. That's why I didn't drop them over there. I'm gonna drop them in the next available ones, you know, because we have in the buildings, those are also public, so you can use those, the public ones, and you could use those, the public ones, and that's just what we have now to do, you know. So there's voting coming up, Montreal voting, and I haven't made my decision yet, but of course we have until November 2nd. We have until November 2nd, well, on November 2nd, so I'm gonna explore, of course, which is best for me. For me, I'm a pro-labor and love universal revolutionary centrist, but my centrism is, of course, tied hand in hand with my trinity of theories, and of course, my trinity of theories is something which is quite unique to the North American civilizational complex, you know, to the North American civilizational complex. So I don't know, I'm not sure who we're gonna vote for, but we're gonna see, you know. It's gonna be a dimension where we're gonna have now to circumvent and circumpolish, of course, all the domains where we got now, of course, to realize all our civilizational complexes in the domains where we are. That's why I took a few steps, because my cousin's brothers there were carrying some in the hands. So I didn't want to. I'm just gonna say, you know, they're carrying something, and I'm just gonna make an effort to take a few the 4 steps principles, you know, because I'm marching steps, you know, and that's just something which I got on the marching steps for that, and marching steps in the congruity of the situation what we have now to be relegated about, you know. This is beautiful. Look at that. Mother Nature, eh? Sometimes we give ourselves too much self-importance when we look how big they are. All these 1, 2, 3, you know, they're way taller than me, eh? Way taller than me, and more beautiful as well. Well, I guess some will find a beauty in my androgynous aspiness way, manners, and appreciate maybe aspies, because we're not a lot in the world, eh? There's not a lot of aspies. There's less than 1%, you know. Less than 1%, of course, in the position where we are now, and it's less than 1%, eh? There's not that many, and I'm part of the half who's unofficially diagnosed and who loves yellow flowers, and favorite colors that are red, and laying the foundations for the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom. And it's so amazing. And at the forgotten goddess temple, not that she needs the temples, but this is what we love to see here. Just beautiful complex of colors, and of those livid colors there. They just make me feel so alive. It's just so beautiful there in the corner, you know. Just the beautiful there in the left, and from my position when I came, it was to my left, you know. And mathematics was going in my mind, or the velocity, you know, the safety protocols, and in the public, as my fellow cousins with the children, and my fellow brothers and sisters there carrying some of that good, and they were carrying, of course, some of those domains where we have now to be, and they were doing a little bit of that carrying. So they were carrying some, I don't know the weight exactly, but I saw that they were both holding them with one hand and one hand. So I said that's why I circumpassed. I have the 4 steps protocol. When I see somebody who's carrying or with children, I do either 4 steps to the left or 4 steps to the right, whichever is best in the terms of velocity. Velocity is basically mathematical calculation of the speed and the distance. For example, this might be to get from where my feet are to the pointer. It might be 4 yards, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe I can do that in a second. So if it is 4 yards a second, that means that every minute I get 60 seconds, I get how many yards? Huh? every second. But if I get 4 yards a second and I get 60, then it's 60 times. If I get 4 yards a second, it's 60 times 60, right? So that means it is, we can do 10 times 4, that's 40, and then times 6, right? And we can do 40 times 6 is 240, right? So I'll get 240 yards, right? I get 240 yards. If it's 4 yards a second, let's say from here to there, that's 4 yards. If depending on my pace, can increase and decrease depending on the terrain. Let's say that's what I do, about 4 yards every second. Let's say 4.4. If I do 4.4 yards a second, I'm not talking about the 40-yard dash here, marching steps, right? I've let the combine out, give NFL some charity, reduce the ticket costs by 44.9%. NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, and NFL, NHL, MLB, and NBA, of course, for the representational, of course, aspects of the NHL, National Hockey League, National Basketball Association, the NFL, and of course the NBA, and of course all those effective rotation where we have now to be circumpositions where we got now. It's just something where we have to be relatively about all the domains, you know. So all the domains where we got now is, of course, to get it on the go and get it, of course, in the circumspection where we have now, the specialties of the domains, that my brain is different. So this difference of the brain can manifest in me sometimes. Even now I jump to do calculations of the speed that I just aforementioned, and also parallel to the cost of gas and how it affects all these individual drivers, my brothers and sisters driving. If they're not driving electric, they're driving cars which cars are consuming electricity, right? So all the cars are consuming, if they're electric, they're consuming electricity, right? Correction. So if they're consuming electricity, then of course they're not spending money on gas. If they're spending money on gas, it is of course the fact that they had to fill their tank gas, because it's an engine which runs on gasoline. If it's hybrid, it's a little bit of each, right? But necessarily to point out the financial mathematical calculation that the average for all these cars which are running on gasoline, or which are hybrid, if they're both, or if they run on gas, it's about 75% more than in 2020, before 2019. So that is a mathematical calculation of the price of increase, and I'm always kind of estimating, but of course the estimation has mathematical principles. The mathematical principles in this case is, of course, that there's the constant gas consumption. So the constant gas consumption here for all these cars, if it's electric, we leave that out because that's electricity. And here in Quebec, we got to give that Hydro-Quebec go, because Hydro-Quebec build, of course, plants, and these plants which were built, of course, the dynamics which we have, that they have that here we don't pollute. Our electricity is clean, zero pollution, almost zero, but there's very low pollution. The most desirable one is by hydro water. So go Hydro-Quebec, go. Let's build some more. Interestingly enough, we got the 63 now built from last year, and of course we need to build some more. And 63, let our empire rise and be. It's always for the 10, the 50, and the 3, and it's always now, it's always today. Live for today and with hope for tomorrow. I live with my difference, my neurodivergence, which can sometimes be intense, and of course the intensity, the concentration, the intensity, the super dedication, super focus in certain aspects of life, and sometimes mathematics is always transpiring. And of course mathematics is also relative, that I'm not an expert genius in mathematics nor a doctor thereof, but of course the relationship thereof, where we have, of course, to calculate. I love percentages, calculating percentages, expenditures, financial percentages, cost of living, of course, increasing on the price, the ratio of the percentage. And like I just said before, because average price of gas in 2020, February 2020, it was 93 cents, right? So if you compare it to today and last month, September, because we're already in October, that means that the price of gas was an average increase of 75% about average on the island of Montreal. And this could be parallel to North America. I inform you about all the states, all the 50 states and other territories. Of course, we have the variations in the states and the territories, because some states, such as, of course, the province here in Alberta, they produce more. So to the fact that they produce more, in the relatively, of course, importance that they have this more production, where we have, of course, the production in Alberta, where we're not able to tap in the tar sands, right? We're not able to tarp in the tar sands, of course, in that position where we have now to be left or right, and in the middle, of course, all those civilizational developments where we got now is something where we got to be all the dynamic in the proposition where we got, you know, to be circumspect about all the left and the right and the ministerial developments, of course, to be now and to, of course, be involved fully. So I'm going to take 4 steps. This is the principle I was mentioning aforementioned, that I'm going to take 4 steps to the right. Okay? 4 steps to the right or to the left, because my auntie was carrying a bag there, you know, she was carrying a bag, and of course all that bag, of course, which she was carrying added some weight. So because it added some weight is, of course, all the civilizational aspects, because of course it added some weight to it. And the weight which was added, of course, was this dynamical weight adding, and of course all the consequential things which the added of the weight added on her stress as she put it down. I calculated that with my backpack, with my velocity, because I'm working out, training, exercising, you know, it's best if I do take, just like, you know, when you lead an army, civilians, army, dragon army, civilians, army, gotta respect love, because gotta get that defense coast to coast, and you gotta LOV also, to be on that defense, and gotta love the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the truckers, the electricians, the plumbers, the bakers, and the welders, and all those involved in the distribution and production of food, of course, and all those, of course, who are now related, of course, relatively to the domain. See, this bottle, don't leave stuff like that. This, don't leave it here in the public. Like, what is this? Don't leave it. Put it in the trash. See, don't leave that here like that. Big bottle, put it in the recycling. You see, look at this. What is this? Gotta clean that. See, what is this? Clean. See, what is this? Just put it in the trash. See, gotta clean in the public. I have my own cleaning to do. We got public-private partnership, you know. Also, our thing, because sometimes there's tourists, you know. We gotta, you know, be cleanliness, and this can be recycled just like the other ones can be recycled, you know. So, this is a big one, you know, this should be recycled. Because if it passes the winter, it starts, of course, snowing. This melts, and that is right there for the melting. If this melts in the ground, it goes down in the ground. So thus, it goes down in the ground, and thus it causes nocives. Nocives and elements, of course, of the pollutant aspects, because the colorants and the earth and there the vegetation is negatively adversely affected. Look at these. Although it is, see, from the concrete, beautiful flowers just burst and say, go dragon, go Adrian, priestess, Hannah, thank you for doing what you can. It takes the individual, we can discuss the environment ecologically, you know, and blah 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 so much. Philosophically, intellectually, scholarly, academically, it is super important. But also parallel to the 50-50 importance is also action. 50-50 is also action. 50-50 is also action. You know, you got to be counterbalanced. Theories, just like my theories, have to be implemented. So back to what I was saying before about the calculation of the gas expenses. I believe this is a fully electric vehicle. I kind of like the shape, you know. Give some charity. Brother Musk in a parallel life, you know, it's the year of darkness 2029, and I build, design satellites, supercomputers, ICBM rockets, antennas, and microchips and all things, satellites connected with super science and computers in the parallel life. I'm also an ASP, have several struggles just like I did in this life with that. My neurological mental divergent condition, known as HFA, high functioning autism, and Asperger's, and of course, I'm somewhat of a hybrid in that parallel life. Where is the year? Now the time is about circa December 21st, the year of darkness 2029. It is the year of darkness 2029. So as I march now, doing a little bit of workout, I gotta say I like the shape and the way the contours. There's a mathematical proportion, and I wanted to ask who designed it. I don't know if it was Elon Musk himself. Give some charity, Elon Musk. Buy some billions for candies, and let's deliver it bulk up next week to the children. Deliver it bulk up by the trucks to the children, especially in the neighborhoods, which kind of need a lot of repairing and mass investment. We have to rebuild the North American inner urban cities. We got to rebuild the ghettos. We got to play that defense, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. And my projects for building satellite integrated telecommunications and projects by the new 911 Dragon Total Dragon 911. Big processes, bro. Because you get that androgyny, you know. Priestess Hannah got those trains of kisses. Trains of kisses created from the forgotten goddess. That's what I got most, you know. Trains of kisses is what I got most. And trains of marching steps with a rock and roll. And that's that dynamic. See how it grows? Right from the concrete. Isn't it nice? See? Right from there. Interesting, eh? They grow flowers here, you know, so you can see flowers there for the left and for the right, and in the middle, and of course all the circumferential development that you see them growing from the concrete, bursting to the concrete. And of course, going to the concrete is quite a beauty, because it's a beautiful yellow. So now I gotta salute the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the plumbers, the electricians, the welders, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, all those now who get it on the ghost, and who do those public partnerships, of course, for the public and the private, and of course in the circumferential aspects of being the got a massive cleaning to do, you know. So that is of course just the dynamics where we have now to be in the relationships. Look at that. That gotta be of course on the left and on the right and in the middle, and see those ones too there. That's a big cleaning we gotta do right here, see. But I want to salute the workers in the public who in the past 20th century who built of course all the aqueducts, and we're building now of course all the aqueducts, and of course all the sewer. See that? It's so it's got a little bit of that rock and roll with it. It's very it's very rusty, see. So thank you public workers of the past, because civilization is a privilege, you know. And now my head goes in mathematics as well. I try to estimate how much the weight of it is, and how much the lines is, and how much of course the circumferential position. Watch, you got a big pothole there, and of course all the dynamics what we got now to be of course inside where we get, and of course to get it on the go, and you gotta get it on the left and on the right, and you know, for the middle, and of course for all those who do that public work, of course in the relationships where we are now to be, always in the domain, always the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the electricians, and the welders, and all those of course now. Imagine how much work it is to be done, you know. So it's always a mathematical calculation with that, and they're gonna get that left or right and in the middle, and there's always brains and muscle involved. Because, you know, well, think about it, just to have these running water to do dishes. I took a bath earlier, right? To do everything that we do, it takes of course so much work and arbeit, which was done and which still is being done, right? Because it's a continuous process, right? It's a continuous process. The maintenance of civilization is a continuous process, and civilization is a privilege. That was my thesis back in 2023. The privilege of civilization, which entails the maintenance and the services which we gotta require. That's why the mass refurbishing of the public-private partnerships, which we gotta reinstall via my DRT, debt refusion tree, to rebalance the public and the private. The public and the private has to be a rebalancing, you know, has to be a rebalancing. So you see, as I see my fellow brothers and sisters here, you know, who ended up on a little bit of rock and roll, and see, I would love if I would be a billionaire across North America. I would go incognito just before the holidays, of course. I would definitely go, and of course what I would do is I would donate to men and women, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. I would donate 50,000, you know, so I said, this is your second chance, or a few tens of thousands. I said, with this you can cover rent for a year, cover food, turn your life around, change your life around, turn your life around, and of course be circumposition, of course, to turn your life around, and of course do the meditations which are required in those special envelopments, and of course enveloping of course all the characteristics where we have now to be related in all the domains where we got to reflect, and of course be aware of course of all the reflections that are of our civilizational complex and its context, where the realities of the privilege of civilization are uniformly in their regards, and then respecting the boundaries as individual sovereign citizens, and of course reflecting the regeneration and joy and security services of the collective North American civilization, the collective as a whole. So the privilege of civilization was my thesis. Well, I got an OnlyFans there, that's all I need. Hey Crow, you know I love you, you know my secrets. Well, that means that you know their secrets as well, eh? She's like, yup, not just yours, Dragon. I know you're full of scars. Full of scars on my body, literally. Internal PTSD, a little bit of some rock and roll with that. And I don't like violence. I like fitness, exercising, and you know, I've been through a lot myself, was depressed and suicidal, but here I am, joyous, smiling, going towards the sun. And I survived COVID in 2020. Since then I live carpe diem every day. I moved where I live now. I moved with nothing. I really had nothing where I lived there, you know. I had nothing really. So I had nothing really. I really had nothing, you know. It's what I brought with me, I'm gonna state that it is like things like the high school diploma and things of that nature, reference letters. And yeah, I died of COVID. I was hit hard by COVID in 2020, February, March, and thought I was gonna die. I thought that was it. I thought that was it for me, and that was, of course, my reflective, representational, of course, awareness of the fact that I've got to get those dynamics done with that. So that is just the reality of my surviving COVID in 2020. So, and since then I live carpe diem every day. It's like my last day, but I dream and I have hopes for tomorrow, especially when I see people working out, training acts of goodness and kindness. Always call all, regardless, non-sectarian manner, because I don't know, I don't have all the answers. My spirituality is rock and rolling. I goddess, it is always God bless, goddess kiss our empire. Coming of the 63 as we're gonna fuse Canada, United States in my way. My brothers and sisters, fellow Canadians, the king is absent. We have tremendous problems, which from my memory, well, because my memory before February 2014 is on the blackout, eh? Winter 2014, January, February 2014. So I have trouble remembering my life prior to winter 2014, basically January-ish, February-ish 2014, which is a long time ago. We're October 22nd, today's October 22nd, 2025. So I don't know, sometimes I say, was I a junkie? Was I doing drugs? Was I a junkie? Was I doing drugs? What was I doing? You know, was I a junkie? Maybe I did hard drugs. Maybe I was drinking alcohol. Sometimes memories comes back. I have this flash of trauma where I survived a vicious surprise attack years and years and years and years ago, you know. A vicious surprise attack. See, this is where it goes. I'm gonna recycle it. And these ones they're a bit wet, so I don't know if I should take the risk. So, see, I also have to inquire more about knowledge. What level? Because there might be a level of humidity. If it's just a little bit wet, then they can be recycled. If not, you can make a compromise like this. Maybe I shake it off and then I put it because it's not so bad. This I'm gonna put it in the trash because it got some dirt. But this big black bag here, okay, I'm gonna do something. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna squeeze the water out of it. So I'm gonna squeeze it. And 1, 2, 3, and big 4, 4, and 4 with the other hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then with both hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a finer 4 of 4 above my head. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I can recycle it. I got the water off because if it's way too wet, it doesn't go in recycling. But that's a good recycling there. You know, I got the water. It was not that much. It was just wet a bit. You know, on the surface wet, just surface wet type. But this is another thing which I also have to learn. It's always education. How much water can be, you know, for example, the bottles, before you recycle them, if you have club soda, by the way, or soda, right? If you drink soft drinks, you rinse them, eh, before you put them in the recycling, eh? A little bit of rinsing with water, just at least a bit, eh? I hope so. That's a practice, eh? Which also has to be considered, you know, when you don't put, for example, if you have pizza and just the top didn't get pizzaed with pizza or with grease on it, you don't put, usually I just put 1/2 of it, the top, which didn't get grease if I have a pizza box, you know, because the bottom usually gets greased up. So that's not really that damages. So we have to do it. See, there's always education and action involved. We can always improve. I can always improve, get better, and we need to, the individual and the collective. So before I was saying, I calculated the math, and then I went a little bit in my retrograde amnesia, RA. So I have some deadlines to go retrieve the archives at the Jewish General Hospital by the October 31st, and as long, of course, to retrieve the archives. And another parallel, of course, is to propose again. I'm going to get maybe a no for the third time I proposed twice, I guess. Maybe going to get a yes. Maybe I'm going to have to Joe Biden it, and just to do it like Joe Biden, you know. Supposedly he proposed 6 times before he got a yes. He proposed 6 times before he got a yes, you know. So proposed 6 times before he got a yes, you know. Proposed 6 times, you know, before he got a yes. Proposed 6 times before we got a yes, you know. That's what it is, you know. Hey. I'm laughing at myself because I know I'm weird. Maybe that's what I got, because I'm different, you know, this difference. I stopped, so what I was doing in my head was mathematics, and I was kind of pointing with my head, looking at my head, and I think some people were laughing. I said, no, I rather make people laugh, you know. I rather make people laugh, but not in a malicious way to laugh at me and make fun, or, you know, I don't like violence, I'm hyper vigilant, but I was clocking in with my head left and right, and I was trying to calculate the price differential, the estimation of the cost of living, in parallel to the fact that everything else is also increasing, the majority of products, and the rent, and of course all these cars here are eating money, eh? Most of these, if they're not electric and hybrid, they're eating money. All these cars, and thousands in Montreal, and they're eating money, not money in the literal sense, but of course they are doing the money, and that, what are they doing there? What are they doing? They are doing there. So they're absorbing the cost increase by 75%, right? By 75%, the cost is increased by 75%. By 75%. All of these cars, if they're not electric or hybrid, they're paying about estimated cost 75% more than in 2020 February. And there's so many. And not just here in Montreal, but throughout North America, and of course other parts of the world might be different, but I'm speaking from Montreal, right? So I was calculating, I was looking around, so I had like 44 seconds of silence, and some people kind of looked and said, what was that weirdo? Yeah, I know it can be weird, but that's what's happening now with me. I'm calculating an estimation of the fact that I know that the majority of salaries have stagnated, and of course where the middle class at, the majority of the salaries have stagnated. So of course the fact that the majority of the salaries have stagnated is of course the relationship of the stagnation of the salaries in equilibrium, of course in conquer mythos where we got now to be in the referential aspects that due to the stagnation of the salaries, this cost of the gas exerts a tremendous financial pressure, a tremendous additional financial pressure, because the constant is, right, the constant is all these cars will consume the same amount of liters per distance. So that car, these 4 cars and all the cars will consume a certain amount of liters of petrol, of gas, per distance, or when the engine is running is pretty much the same. The engine is running as well, is like basically driving like driving also, because the engine is not shut off. So when the engine is running, but also the distance. So of course the distance is of course always the same, in the same proposition that the distance is always regulated from A to Z. That's a constant. So this is always the same. There will always consume X amount of liters per Y distance, right? That never changes. That is the constant. What has changed? What is the variable mathematically, financially? The variable is the cost, exactly. The cost of the gas. That's the variable. That's what has changed and is changing, because it's always fluctuating every day. Every day there's a 1 cent, 2 cents, 3 cents, and of course all those cents what we have now to be, right? So considering that, see? Considering that and the fact that the salaries have stagnated, the salaries have stagnated. So the majority of the salaries have stagnated, and of course the stagnation of the salaries is the major problem that we have also now. Of course, to have a lot of strikes, a lot of strikes. That's why I'm going towards the sun now. A lot of strikes. The third strike, it never happened in history, I think, or in 30. Did they say 39 years, 38 years? Last time was in the 80s. I believe there's something about 38 or 39 years that last time that this happened, with a strike of the public transit here in the island of Montreal. It's 2.5 million people. I'm so glad I took it west. The sun's shining, piercing through the clouds. Hail the King, the Pope, the Sun. Ra 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 ra. Ra 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 ra. So that is the reality of having now, the reality of the... Thank you, beauty in the clouds. You're welcome, blessings. It's like I get out of my face, piece of dust. I know, what am I compared to the lovely star, the sun, eh? Who now rises and now sets. So grateful for today, you know. Kill it, have vitamins, and in the sun with my freedom, my difference, my weirdness, my strangeness, my scars, my sufferings, my, you know. I'm not sexually frustrated though. I do have a, let me look around if there's nobody to say, but it's too young for to hear this. I would discuss it if I would be, but I do have a healthier and healthier masturbation habits, and you know, I also discard my little scar. Kind of looks. I have to go. I couldn't afford the $300 to go to the dermatologist, and I had to go see what it was. I didn't have the $300 to go to the dermatologist. To go to the dermatologist to check it out, because it costs $300. On my dick sometimes goes rocket. God is blessed, sun blessed, moon with it. God is blessed, rocket up. So, because I am androgynous, but I get that rocket sometimes, you know. So I went to check years and years ago, I believe 9 years ago, I went to check for STDs, you know. And although I made some friends in the LGBTQ community, the pride parades, and made many friends, it's just the problems with Asperger's. Asperger's, you have a problem maintaining friends long distance. That's why I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't want to waste your time. Don't waste mine. As friends with benefits only from now on. Friends with benefits. You're black, you're white or black. Man or woman, you know. Man or woman. I played that King and Queen of Spades. King and Queen of Spades. Not a problem. Black and white and rainbow, you know. If you're black, you're white, you're a man, you're a woman, you want to be friends with benefits for that 18 plus, I would discuss, say what we expectations and how we get to work for that pleasure. Body is a temple for pleasure and purpose. Get dirty, get back clean, hygiene, you know. Beautiful sky, see, but I'm not sexually frustrated, and it itches less now because I apply cream, but you know, I'd be scratching, you know, because I scratch sometimes, just, it's like ants, basically, like, sometimes I just feel like there's ants on my androgynous genitalia, who goes rocket, that phallic love, cock, black and white and rainbow. I love cock, and pussy. I love cock and pussy. I love cock and pussy, rock and roll it for the sun. Friends with benefits only. No need to spy on me, Secret Services of China, stay over there. Secret Services of Russia, the only ones who can spy on me are David McGuinty and Pete Hexet and Tulsi Gabbard. It's a Dragon versus Trump event since 2018. Have been and will continue to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match, and have been ever since. And of course, I'm not perfect. I have my scars. And You know, with Asperger's, sometimes there's been a tough journey to accept it. For years and years and years, I didn't want to accept my difference, you know, because for years and years and years, I've been diagnosed and said, of course, in the proposition, look, we got a clean there, and all those marks now to be circumferential about it, and all those domains where we got now to be related in the alternative, and of course, all that awareness of my difference. I gotta give a shout out to my anonymous friend and who gifted me the books called 2 books on autism. They have chapters on Asperger's, because Asperger's and HFA, high functioning autism. Asperger's basically is a form of autism on the spectrum, and I have HFA, the HFA high functioning autism form, the Asperger's, Aspie. I'm an Aspie basically, who plays it sometimes nasty for world peace only. For world peace. But I predicted what's happening now. It's a marking 6 years since I predicted what's happening now. And again, I gotta give a shout out to my friend for a book that was loaned for me. It was 4 times from the library. That book was called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. So Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome is a great book that I recommend. It was written before Asperger's and HFA mixed, merged, fused, because they're one and the same. So when I use HFA, high functioning autism, and Asperger's, basically I'm making a reference to one and the same thing, eh? It's one and the same thing. So since about 2015, 2016, my friend and several people have told me, you know, that I didn't want to accept it until recently, 3.5 years ago during COVID. I said, yeah, I'm an Aspie, I'm neurodivergent, I have this neurological mental divergent condition, makes sense, you know, I keep losing my jobs, keep losing my friends, and I was depressed and suicidal. Well, I don't know if I dropped out of college probably because of Asperger's and autism, because I have a high school diploma, and that's a big Aspies, usually people with HFA, we encounter problems such as dropping out of higher education or high school, not being able to maintain friends, long-term friendship is a problem, or employment also. For my community, which is less than 1%, that is about half of the population, we have a lot of work to do. Oh no, this is bad here. That's why we need that DGA priestess, got the kisses, blah blah blah, don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. Pledge your allegiance, DGA, and that's how we gotta get that rock and roll with it, and that's how we step. See, this, you can see my past videos, this is where I make, these are grapes, wild grapes here. See these, I'm gonna clean them, these are edible. These are edible grapes. Edible grapes, see? Edible. Oh yeah. Yeah, and a few years ago, well, I believe 2 years ago even. Well, sometimes no, 2 years ago, I took the grapes from another place because I got, oh no, that's bad there. 2 years ago, I took the grapes from another place. We got a big cleaning to do here. Yeah, we got big cleaning to do, see? Big cleaning. Wow, that's why we need the DGA, because this ruins the environment. See, this is a lot of cleaning, a lot of cleansing, a lot of purification we got to do here in Mother Nature, the greatest artist. And we got to lay the foundations for both the DGA Dancing Goddess Army, the Imperial Integrated Dance League with the Dragon Army, the DGA, the Imperial Integrated Dance League, you know. Pledge your allegiance to our family, and there's a lot of things to do here. a lot of things to do. And back to what I was saying, that I have four main places throughout the island where I harvest grapes, wild grapes. I clean them, wash them really well, thoroughly, very well washed, and then I boil them. I crush them while boiling them, and I make, for the winter, for the holidays, I make grape juice. Put a little bit of sugar, make grape juice. Canadian made, Montreal made, Dragon made, wild grape juice. If you want, and just commission, I can make a bottle for you, you know, for the winter, or you can store it or drink it in the spring, whatever. But just got a commission, holler up, and we make a deal, you know, $300, but shipping North America only. See, wild grapes. No, these are not grapes. So these are not grapes. These are not the grapes. These are the grapes. But here they congeal, but in theory they can still be boiled. Here they're not that well. They were better in there. Here they're not that good. See, but they're all around. They're kind of from all around here. All this is wild grapes, and there's lots of places in Montreal for the wild grapes. They're smaller. They're smaller. They're smaller, but they're good to go. You know, they're good to go. They're edible, and some are sweeter than others. Some are more sour. So some are more sour than others, but generally they're good. They're edible. So it took me years and years and years to accept my neurodivergence, my aspiness. And again, thank you, my anonymous friend, for loaning and renting and taking out from the library that book, Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome, which I recommend to all neurotypicals and neurodivergence, and ASP specifically, because it's about Asperger's solely. It's called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome, and that is a great one, Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. So that is great. So I definitely recommend it. When you hear the sirens of the police or the ambulances or the fire trucks, remember the Imperial Citizen Full Circle Security Protocol. You turn your head 180 degrees to the left, 180 degrees to the right, and you make sure, you make sure that everything's safe around you. There's a Citizen Protocol. Citizen Protocol. The Citizen Protocol. Citizen Full Circle Imperial Citizen Protocol. I love these red here, see? This is beautiful as the sun hits them. Mother Nature, wow. Those are not grapes, by the way, so these are dangerous. Don't eat them. Admire them. They're beautiful black, eh? Beautiful black and with the red, a beautiful black and red combination, but these are not edible. So those are not grapes, where they kind of look like grapes, but they're not. So it took me years and years and years to accept. So see, they're gonna go on strike again for the third time, the bus drivers and the metro there. So it took me years and years and years to finally accept. For years, like 5 or 6 years even, I didn't want to accept. Only about 3.5 years ago or so, I've accepted my neurodivergence, my aspiness, and it's been a long journey, you know. I've had many employments, jobs, I lost them all, because I'm working independently, YouTuber, and I always rock and roll, eh? 45 fighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, truckers. Hey, let me see those hands up with the sun, don't play me for a sucker. You know, so I'm an artist, I'm an athlete. I'm good at rock and roll, I've been getting better at understanding social cues and norms. That is a problem for Aspies, and no, not all Aspies are good at computer science, by the way. Computer scientists, okay, so there's a disproportionate statistical number, of representative statistical proportionate number. So within the Aspie community, but keep in mind that we're less than 1% of the population, and you're typical the vast majority of the 99% of the population, with whom we have to build bridges, whether we build small, medium, large, or extra large. Just like when you order a coffee, pizza, or fries, you might want to order a small fry or coffee, a medium pizza, coffee, fry, a large coffee, fry, or pizza, or an extra large pizza, coffee, fries, or pizza. Within those 4 different sizes or categories, such is that we have to parallel build those bridges with you, the neurotypicals population, with which we have to build the bridges with. So that is consequentially what it is. Right? So that realization that myself as an individual Aspie, I don't know the other Aspies, because I'm an individual part of a tiny small fraction of the population of the North American Collective, of which we are, I believe Canada, we're 44 million now, right? All who come here, we got to treat them with the same courtesy and respect, whether they become citizens or not, and we're going to become new citizens, Novus Civis, Imperial new citizens of the Empire. We're going to become Imperial new citizens, you know, do a lot of cleaning, a lot of rebuilding of our infrastructure. When I take a look here, I always get alarmed that there might be a possibility for danger, open danger, our infrastructure. Both Canada and the United States, and it's a very similar representational proportion that the public, which was built by the public, all the highways that are in, the aqueducts, the sewers were all public built and public safeguarding from the 20th century. However, the 21st century, we pretty much neglected much of the public. We neglected in the 21st century much of the public. Much of the public in the 21st century was neglected. There was a neglect. It was neglected. So now my theories, protocols, the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, the DRT, Death Fusion Theory, the DFT, Democratic Fusion Theory, we must and we have to do what? To rebalance, a re-equilibrium. Okay, Habs are playing tonight. See the Habs, and I'm auctioning. We're playing the Calgary Flames, the Canadian team, which they're not doing so good. They're last, and we're first or second. I believe we're in the Atlantic. We're first or second. So it's go Habs go, but please reduce the tickets, because now they're too expensive, too pricey for the majority of the population. So I calculate a reduction of all the 4. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. The NFL, National Football League, the NHL, National Hockey League, the NBA, National Basketball Association, the MLB, those 4. And if I would get tickets, I would get tickets from the PVHL, Professional Women's Hockey League, and of course all those professional women's hockey leagues, which are good to go, you know. What is that? Look at this. Don't do that there, please. Please, this is no good. This, you gotta put all that in the trash, man. Gotta get a bin there. See, look at that. What's that, man? Like a trash there. What is that, man? You gotta put a bin there. Just wait and throw it in a recycling. See, right there in the corner. Don't do that. That's gonna pollute. Now I'm upset. Said all those. I know Tim Hortons, you get the coffee, but just leave it there where the bus passes, you know. But that's what I'm saying. We gotta master invest in the public, but it takes the individual collective as well. So it takes the individual to do as well. If we don't do it, if I don't do it, you don't do it, then it's not done. See, all this here where it is. See, like this has to be recycled, of course. So, of course, that recyclable capabilities what we have now for us to do it as well. So, of course, in all the relationships where we are now involved, It's of course all the dimensions where we have to implement our relativity, discursive nature and axis. Of course all the civilizational complex where we have now to be integral, and of course to be integral of all the civilizational complexes where we are now to be in the domain. So of course all the relationships where we have now is to be conferential about and be of course relative to our domains and relative to our apparatus, that of course we have this civilizational complex. What a beautiful red. So it takes the individual as well as the collective, you know. It takes the individual as well as the collective. And of course, being that it takes the individual as well as the collective, we have to proportionally representatives thereof in both a public and a private manner. I just wanted to take a look at this. See, this is a weird N.A.C.W.P trait. So we will be concerned about certain details and numbers. And how my brain works, I'm trying to calculate. You can calculate the type of the volume. What a beast. Beautiful beast. Public workers, you rock, you know. You rock. This is for the public workers, to put all these. See, for example, here, it's made in Quebec. It even tells you the tons, metric tons, 3.9 tons. The le poids, that's French. That's the tons. I don't know what the dedie means, but I know it was produced not long ago. See, le cuillère, and you see the poids, so those dimensions, and then the prototype, the type, CR6C, CRR610 type 3. So that's something that I want to know. I want to know what that's about, because that's what Asperger's is. Sometimes we're weird, obsessed about details. So I'm just going to show you some behavior of an N.A.C.W.P, potential behavior of a fellow N.A.C.W.P, which we N.A.C.W.Ps might do, which I've been doing for years. And I remember my friend was saying, you know, that about 9-10 years ago, my friend, anonymous friend, who I'm going to propose again maybe on Halloween, exactly on Halloween, and if not, I get a no again, maybe December 24th, you know, because that's going to be the last deadline, December 24th, 25th. I'm going to do like Joe Biden, propose 6 times, eh? Propose 6 times. Propose 6 times, you know, let's do the proposition 6 times. And those are, of course, just the dynamics where we have now to be circumferential about. And those, of course, are just the representatives, of course, to get and to be in the dynamics, of course, of all the relationships about where we have now, and all, of course, those left or right, to be, of course, relatively in all the domains where we explicitly are. That I'm gonna show you now, and see, that's just like this bridge. There's a beauty to this bridge, you know, a beauty. I just love it. Bridge builders of the Publik, 20th century, 21st century. You rock and roll. I gotta give you some of that good loving, you know. You build all of these bridges, and of course all these bridges are built right here, and that's how we have to be doing now. So all those bridges are built now in the left and the right, and in the concomitantly, of course, representation of us to be now relegated and bowed, and all those relative aspects of what we have now concomitantly and prudently, of course, to be. It is, of course, the situational representatives of what we have now, the domains. That this bridge is exquisite, eh? Look at that. That this bridge is exquisite. So that exquisiteness of the bridge is somebody who built this bridge, of course, and built it a while ago, you know. A while ago, but it's quite a nice bridge, and of course that is something which we have to do in all the concomitantly, of course, representatives about all the relationships where we are now. So I guess so. We are necessary. On est un mal nécessaire. Ça dit dans la Bible, gain sevenfold, 7 times 7 with interest, plus 7 times 7, make it again, double it, vengeance plus 7 times 7 vengeance. Whoever strikes me, it'll be strike sevenfold. We ejaculate on Jesus. We are evil incarnate. So now that we see here where we are, as you can see, this beautiful beautification, of course, of the representative aspects. Desert. So I'm going to show you I had a beautiful sun, grateful for it. I'm going to pass here and see, this is what I'm going to show you now. So for years and years and years I've been doing it. So this might be an N.A.C.W.P behavior, so somebody might inspect the object like that. Close object, close object, close object. Right, that, close object, right? So whatever the case is, it will be something which will be inspected in such a manner, you know? So I was doing this for years and years and years. I still do. My anonymous friend, I'm going to propose again, I guess, get 50-50 if I make a million a bid. For years I was inspecting the object, you know? Inspecting the object like this. So what we're doing is we're looking for details. So it could be on a can, it could be on different things, of course on the can, and of course it could be on several things, you know, and that doesn't have just to be, of course, on the can or what have you, but it could be, of course, on all the other relations that exist, and the markings and the numbers. It could be numbers, it could be made in. I've been checking the made in, of course, since many years, you know. I've been checking the made in, where it is made in for many years, and gotta check a little bit of that sun there. Oh yeah, gotta get a little, so just gonna stay a few seconds in the sun here and do a little bit of that meditation and bow down to the King, the Pope a little bit, and of course to do a little bit of that rock and roll for the Pope, the King, the Sun, and gotta get that loving. So what I was explaining is that I still do it today. For years and years and years I've been inspecting the objects like this close to the face, you know. So what we're doing is, of course, we're marking, we're looking at the numbers. So details, for example, you see there's a number there on this, it's 7,315. So that number has a signification. It could be that that is the number 7,315 in the order, in the sequence, in that plant, in that factory where that was assembled, where that particular plant manufactured the product, which is a hand sanitizer, basically antibacterial. It is maybe the number 7,315, you know, the number 7,315. That is just what it is, number 7,315. That is basically what it is. The reverberance and the reality of that number is that it has, of course, a significance. That has a purpose, whether it's classifying certain things, whether it's marking certain things, it has a purpose, and that purpose can be just a number to represent the fact that it is the 7,315th product on that specific day or week. It could be weekly or monthly, maybe even monthly, daily. Daily, I don't know, 7,000 a day. If it's the number 7,000, it could be that the sequence is daily or weekly, you know. So, so for years and years, and I remember years ago, about 9-10 years ago, my friend told me, you know, people are looking at you there, like, you look like a weirdo, eh? You know that? Like, yeah, I kind of know, but and then I asked her, you know what I'm doing? She said, I know what you're doing. You're looking at the details where it's made, the grams, you're calculating mathematics in your head, proportionalities of ratio, the prices, you're probably calculating how much it cost, the cost per gram, per 10 grams, per XYZ, if it's of course more, whatever the case may be. So I said, exactly, yeah, all that. So I said, I know, but the other people, they don't know. They look at you like you're from another, like an alien, an extraterrestrial. And in many ways, we are kind of alien, extraterrestrial, like, of course, in many ways, alien and extraterrestrial life. In many ways, we are. Look at this beauty. No? Look at that, so red. The sun is there. In many ways, we are just kind of extraterrestrials in many ways. But we're not evil, bad, or negative, or demonic, you know. Asperger's makes a beautiful field of red, just gorgeous, with a little black there, see? Kind of black, but they're a bit brownish black. Kind of a nice combination of green, yellow, red, and shades of red, and then black. With it, it's super beautiful, eh? The Mother Nature here, look at that. Isn't just gorgeous? I love passing here. I love all 4 seasons, and the colorful season of autumn here, if you come to experience, it's Montreal, is rocks and rolls all 4 seasons, but you see, because we got a lot of flora, fauna, but we have to upkeep it also. We have to preserve it, we have to take care of it ourselves. So that's why I didn't go there on the, when I'm staying here kind of on the nature of the red, my favorite color, which, the backpack is red, of course, my backpack, but now I have it's not visible to the exteriors because I have the raincoat, because it was raining a bit earlier, so gotta be grateful, thankful to my anonymous friend for getting me this raincoat. She got me the best clothes. Clothing wise, fashion wise, we're kind of suck, we're kind of mediocre at those aspects we can be, except we might have colors which we like and certain patterns and colors, but fashion wise we don't really pay too much attention to that. Most aspects. I'm an individual aspect. We have our special interests, of course, and my anonymous friend got me the best. I had shirts and t-shirts and socks and the best jeans as well. Auctioning my clothes. I don't even know if I have anything in terms of clothes. The only thing I have as clothes is something which I found just before I moved, a year before I moved. I found in like November 2014. It has buttons. I think one is missing now. So you got 4 buttons left. 4 buttons, I gotta double check, maybe there's 5, but it has buttons and it's like golden and it has like 5 stars, you know, like with the generals with the 5 stars, and it's all black and it says Nuage by Marlowe, so it's quite cool and has nice engravings on it. I found it right before I moved. A year before I moved, I found it, or somebody was getting rid of it, so I took it. It was actually donated for donation, you know, before the garbage. You put it and he said to take, you know. So I said, wow, hit the jackpot. It's the best I have, actually. It's the best I actually have. It kind of looks a bit for today, like 11 years later, made for November 2025, 11 years later, I guess, and 2026, 2027, 2028, and 2029, the year darkness, where I live now and build satellites, supercomputers, ICBM rockets, microchips, and all that good stuff. So I used to live, like I said, because I mentioned where I used to live. I don't know how many years I lived over there. Maybe I lived for many years, but I have documents from 2010, so at least 4 years. Minimum 4 years, maybe 5 or more years. You know, I have a high school diploma from the South Shore, and I had some things that I lived in Greenfield Park, which is in Canada, Greenfield Park in Canada, not in England or the United States, because it exists. Greenfield Park, many cities called Greenfield Park are in the United States as well, so just to clarify, that's Greenfield Park, Canada, where the motto is just the same Latin that John Wick has. I'll let you figure that one out. That John Wick has on the back. John Wick has engraved Latin inscriptions on his back, and Greenfield Park is that same one, of course. Those same inscriptions, and that's why we have, of course, to be. So those same inscriptions are written, of course, at John Wick. So, of course, all those characterizations what we have now are, of course, the domains that all those inscriptions are. As the motto of Greenfield Park, and the motto of Canada is Un mare in masca and mare in masca, from sea to sea. The motto of the United States is Imperium or N.A.C.W.P. It's also in Latin. Look at that. Isn't that a beauty? Beautiful red one. Is in Latin as well. As the motto of our empire is both the first Hebrew letter, Aleph, and Hebrew in Hebrew. Look at that beauty. And Latin, right? Hebrew and the hieroglyphs. The eye. All the hieroglyphs, the eye, and of course all the other concomitant, the eye with that, and the other things which we have, you know, to live in on the go. The eye, look at that beautiful one. So that's why we gotta get drilling with that, and we gotta get doing on that love. So the eye, that's beautiful. The twin of the other one. So the eye, you know, the eye which we have, and other markings, the Draconis, Imperium, Legionis, Servitium, and those are the domains and the realities of what we have now, proportionalities, you know. So all those aspects where we are living today in this 2025, in this October 25th, we see how beautiful it is here. It's really nice, you know, all this parallel, how it is like that, just gorgeous. And this one is super nice. Look at that one. See, he's got some nice red there, just very red, man. Just gotta love that right there, man. Love a little bit of that rock and roll. You gotta appreciate. If you don't appreciate nature, you know, you gotta be immersed in this with that, and that's what we gotta get doing now. See, they're going on a strike. They're gonna go on a strike, you know. So they're gonna go on a strike with that, and that's what they gotta do, you know, with the XYZ and in the dimensions where we have now, you know, to be relatively about it. And those are just the relationships where we live by today, you know. But it's just gorgeous, isn't it? Just amazing. This whole that's not cool though. This is not cool. That's why we gotta. That's not cool. Not cool. This we gotta clean. That's why we need mass cleaning here. You know, mass cleaning. So this is super nice. That's why I said I'm gonna stay on this side, because the sunset is visible, rather than the other days last week before we stayed on the other side. So just gonna wrap it up on Asperger's autism. Gonna say what it is and what it's not. So, but just to finish that, I used to live, in that moldy place for a few years here in Montreal, on the Côte des Neiges. It's called Citoyen, the most populated neighborhood of the populated island of Montreal. Hawk Island, Montreal is of course the second biggest, most populated city in North America. Is in Canada. It's 7th or 8th in North America, even if we include Mexico. So it was first for many hundreds of years. For centuries, Montreal was the most populated. You know, was the most populated. Of course, it was the most populated for many years, centuries actually, not just decades but years. Montreal, and of course, it was the most populated for many decades, centuries even, until about 2007 or 2015. Recently, in the 21st century, Toronto overtook Montreal population-wise. So now Toronto is #1 population. The population of Toronto is now... The population of Toronto... the population of Toronto now is... The population of Toronto now is more... Toronto is the #1 populated city in Canada. And Montreal is the second. So both... Toronto, I believe, is 6th or 5th in North America, and Montreal is 7th or 8th. 7th or 8th, even if we include Mexico. Mexico City is, of course, the most populated city in North America when we include Mexico. So Montreal is in the top 10. So I used to live in a very moldy place. I didn't even have a bathtub, eh? I'm glad I have one now. I didn't even have a bathtub in the bathroom. I didn't even have a kitchen. Proper kitchen was in my room, you know. I had a stovetop in my room, and that was it. It was like a tight prison cell. I always say I served my time. I guess karma. I guess I served my own karma justice. I was saved, I guess, by the goddess. And I'm neurodivergent, but I do have a sense of justice, if I can make some justice. And a lot of people misunderstand Aspies, that we're not compassionate, you know, we don't have compassion. But we have compassion, but we show compassion more by action, you know. If we can do something for an individual. And of course, doing something for an individual will require some levels, of course, of that doingness ourselves in the plurality, what we have, of course, to be now. So, of course, all that plurality, what we have to be now, is relegated to doing, you know, to doing actions. Of course, doing those actions requires a parameter where, I mean, quickly financially I can't because I'm financially stressed, but otherwise, we have, myself as an individual Aspie, we do have compassion. It's just, you have to understand that we don't, Aspies, an Aspie like myself might not necessarily be verbose about it, might not necessarily be verbose, you know, might not necessarily be verbose about it, might not necessarily be verbose, might not necessarily verbalize it. So it might not necessarily be a verbosity, you know, might not necessarily be a verbosity about it, might not verbally manifest the compassion vocally, verbally, but counterpoise by action. So verbalizing what can do, you know, like we can do if you can do something. Look at this beauty, you know. That's another beauty right there. Just so beautiful. And of course, the sky is just beautiful, you know. This is a moment, 22nd of October. Very, very beautiful. So that is just Asperger's high-functioning autism, which manifests in these more strange manners where we do not necessarily console verbally, you know, like with a statement such as, I feel sorry for you. And Aspies, we can be pretty straightforward and direct. Like the fact that I lived there in that moldy place, and that I was depressed and suicidal for a few years, I almost killed myself, and that I survived that vicious surprise attack. I'm not looking for anybody to feel sorry for me whatsoever. I have no need of that, you know. I'm healthy, joyous today, just financially stressed, you know. If you want to be a friends with benefits and make it for today with hope for tomorrow, maybe tomorrow I'll get an extra friends with benefits. If not, don't waste my time, don't waste yours. You know what to expect, you know. I pretty much have this routine, although I don't mind change. I guess I changed myself 4 times, you know. I changed myself 4 times, and since I died there in 2014 and then moved 2015 summer, then I was depressed and suicidal. Spent many years depressed and suicidal with 1 foot in the streets, 1 foot in the libraries in many ways, and had the representation and that representative, of course, aspect, of course, of the circumferential relativeness, of course, for us to be in the plurality, of course, of the domain where we now live with, and all, of course, the circumstantial position where we have now to be, of course, left or right and in the middle, and of course congregate ourselves to be on the left or in the middle and in the center. Sometimes it's centrism. Got to be that fusion of the left and the right. And you see, here's the eco center. You can drop off, you can contact them and drop certain chemicals and whatever you have to dispose on in an environmentally safe and ecologically sound manner. This year I actually applied, the second time I'm applying. I got to do a follow-up in the coming days. Maybe tomorrow I'll do a follow-up, or wait till next week, because, you know, gotta let at least a week, 2 weeks pass before I do follow-up. But I applied with them to see if there are any opportunities and jobs. I applied to many jobs, but I had many jobs during COVID. That's a problem for Aspies. We have jobs, we get jobs, it's keeping them, because we're different, eh? So certain things we just don't get, and we might get too close. We might breach personal space, huh? The personal space usually is what, a few yards, a few meters. It could be 4 yards, a few meters, or a meter and a half. Aspies might come so close to the face and breach and stay 4 inches. 4 inches instead of 4 yards it could be confusing and alarming, and people might not feel safe or intimidated, or, you know, these characteristics these characteristics of Asperger's and autism, which of course they are relatively, of course, to the level of the side, of course, where we have now to be in the composition what we got to say of the meditative relationships and of our neurodivergence, and we have to build those bridges with you, the 99%, because I don't have antagonistic feelings, resentfulness. I suffered, struggled, yeah, and I require more understanding. That's why Friends with Benefits Only, if you understand what we're that about, rock and roll. I could use straight-in massages, and I have a weird, awkward sexuality anyways. I discuss it, and I'm not in the closet. I haven't been for years, and since I know, at least 11 plus years, I'm part of the LGBTQ community, you know. I'm a mystic as well as a spiritual teaching student. I believe in reincarnations and many past lives, many incarnations. Sometimes I was born a man, a woman, a woman, a man, a woman, a man, man, a woman, a woman, a man. Now you get that 50-50, and that's counterimposed, of course, to all the relations where we have now to be relatively, and in the aspects now that we have to be concomitant, of course, in all those aspects of society where somewhere of those aspects of society we might lack. Not necessarily a disability, but we are less able aspects of certain things. We have to be told more directly, straightforward, and ourselves. Sometimes we can be more straightforward and direct, right? But if you look at the statistics of ASPs, of my tiny small community of neurodivergence, who are known as ASPs or who live with HFA, high functioning autism, that unemployment sometimes is more than 80%. Almost 85 sometimes. More than, can you imagine, 4 out of 5? So the unemployment statistics for Aspies is so high. And please don't, like, yeah, I know there's Aspies who are billionaires, and if you are support fellow Aspies, I gotta give a shout out to an Aspie who about last year sent $25.44. $25.44. $25.44. I bought an affordable bottle of wine. I bought some bacon. I bought some bread, and I bought wafers. So for the Sabbath, I spent it on basically food and to eat well. So I ate well. Thank you, thank you for that donation. Well, look at these beautiful white flowers there. 4 clusters. See? Oh, there's a 5th one. There's a 5th. There's a 6th. Not just 4 clusters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of different varying sizes. So see, just like this bridge, we have to build bridges, whether we build small bridges, medium-sized bridges, large bridges, or extra large bridges. So those bridges have to be built, right? Have to be building the bridges. It requires a reciprocal manner from both sides, right? From both sides. Beautiful sunset, eh? Both sides, you know, both sides. But from both sides we have to build. So from your side, the neurotypicals, the majority of the population, and the neurodivergence, us Aspies and people with autism on the spectrum and what have you, you know. That's how we have to be building. And of course, all that building what we have, of course, to build is the relationship where we have to build those bridges. All right, so those are the realities of the bridges, of the building of the bridges, which we must initiate in a reciprocal manner, because I just require understanding, right? But the problem is it's very high unemployment rate, okay? And it's not a disease, you know. It's not. That's where I have to draw the line. That Asperger's is not a disease, eh? It's not a disease. It's not evil, bad, demonic, and satanic or whatever negative appellations. And I remember years and years and years ago, but during COVID, beginning of COVID, and I got triple vax, I encourage you all, of course, to keep the protocols of COVID. Keep the protocols of COVID, get vaccinated. Increase in acts of goodness and kindness, and please keep the protocols for the bacteria, germs, and microbes, you know. Bacteria, germs, and microbes. Those are, of course, which we have now. Of course, the bacteria, germs, and microbes are part of us. So bacteria, germs, and microbes exist. So we have to wash and disinfect the hands. We have to wash and disinfect the hands. I even applied here. I'm going to do a follow-up. Maybe I'm going to wait until next week, just before Halloween, because I think it's only been like a week or 2 weeks like that. So that's just what it is with that. So I applied there, of course, in the circumferential position there. So that is just something which we got to get doing on that, and that's how we have to get doing on that drill for us to go. And that's just the meditative aspect of where we live now today, in all the circumferential aspects where we have to endeavor to be present And of course, I don't know, because last year I applied as well. And I believe 2 years ago I passed by and it was a snowy day and that was there and I applied. I think this is the third time actually in the past 2 years which I applied. So I'm gonna wait to make a file. See, they're saying now hiring. See there? They're hiring, but you know, maybe also give them a call. 514-367-1654. I can walk here 40 minutes, 44 minutes. 514-367-1654. 514-367-1654. 514-367-1654. 514-367-1654. 514-367-1654. 514-367-1654. So we're gonna get a little bit of a call with that, maybe parallel. So that is just the reality of suffering with unemployment for Aspies, also losing friends. High depression and suicidal rates. High depression and suicidal rates. Very high, very elevated. Aspies is super elevated. The depression, super elevated. Depressed, suicidalness, depression. Lack of friends and high dropout rates. Those are the four main problems. And you know, for me, solutions, friends with benefits. I'm working now, so always open for some work, not just artistic, athletic, but any type of work, really. Work. The Draconis, we're all doing, all singing, all cleaning, all shitting, all kissing, all hugging, all washing, or getting dirty, get back clean. Army, Draconis, PvP, pledge your allegiance. We gotta get that rock and roll. Here we go. Yeah. Gonna train, and today we're not gonna do more than 5 hours. Yesterday we clocked in more than 5 hours. Yesterday already marched yesterday more than any general of NATO, and today gonna march more than any general of NATO. Already on that march, and you know, whether my memory comes back or not, sometimes trauma have to retrieve that archives, because I survived a vicious surprise attack. I was hit in the head a few years ago, and out of nowhere, there was no sportsmanlike conduct, no declaration, official declaration, formal declaration of war. There was no warning, nothing, just a vicious surprise attack. You would have got expulsed in a game of football. NFL, keep his sportsmanship. When I'm gonna box Donald Trump, I got those red gloves in the backpack, auctioning them for $1 million. Anybody want to see me going up these stairs 300 times for $300? 300 times, $300. Rock and roll always, blah blah blah. For the 10, the 50, and the 3, the 63, which we're gonna fuse United States, and we're gonna build those 4 I'm gonna get to. But yeah, I survived a vicious surprise attack. I was hit in the head a few times, hit my head on the concrete in the Montreal Metro, and was bloodied up. Had a dislocated right arm. Went to the Jewish General Hospital, and they kind of cracked back my arm. They cracked it back. They gave me some meds, and I have to retrieve the archives to see when that was. And we got a lot of work to do. That one's very dirty. That's gonna be bad for the growth here, because we got flowers. And see, that's where we were yesterday, and that's the downtown Korea. That's the mountain, Mount Royal. My second home, Mount Royal, there, the Three Peak Mountain, right between the east and the west. It's exactly between the east and the west, but it's the south. It's south. Between the north and the south is not in the center, but between the east and the west. And that is the antenna. That's the center with the antennas there, that you see that antenna a bit blurred up, because we got to get that zoom. And of course, that's the antenna where you see those where we were yesterday, and where you see the radio, television. Of course, when I pass there, I always get that parallel live connection where I build super satellites, supercomputers, ICBM rockets, everything to do with 5G, 6G, 7G networks. And there, of course, I build as a public-private partnership total satellites across the NATO and across the world complex. Me and a consortium of scientists and myself are led, of course, thousands of sats, thousands of satellites, thousands of sats. And that's how we got to get doing with the thousands of sats there across the sky. And we got to get that mountain, and that's the mountain there far off. See, my second home there, the mountain, Mount Royal, and West Mount Outremont, and of course Mount Royal properly there. And that is where we were yesterday. So that is that drill. That's that rock and roll. And here we go. That's the mountain, which is the headquarters of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, fundamentally the Empire, the Imperial Democratic Republic, a fundamental public-private partnership across the North American Collective. As you can see that beautiful sky, and this is part of the river, eh? But this is deviated from the river there. The But you can see in my past videos how big the river is, but this is just man-made. But the river which surrounds Hawk Island, Montreal as an island is huge and big, and over there in Lachine is a deviation man-made, and this goes back into the bigness of the river which flows in the east to the Atlantic from the Great Lakes, and of course we celebrated last year about 50 years since we built the canals, and of course ships can go from the Atlantic all the way to the Great Lakes. Quite a feature of engineering. Engineers rock and roll. For the engineers who build the canals, imagine all that brains, all that muscle to build, brains and muscle, you know, to build the canals, for us to have the privilege of transportation of the ships. The ships we can go internally in the Great Lakes, in Illinois, Michigan, Detroit, and they can go, of course, Ontario with that. So the Great Lakes were mistaken by an ocean. Supposedly, I just heard that today. It was a fellow Canadian who has some videos and discusses, unfortunately, nowadays is most discussing the problems which Canadians are facing, including myself, financially stressed. Super financially stressed. That's my only stress now. Financial, money-wise. Besides that, commercial-wise. Besides that, I paid my rent, you know. I paid my rent, I paid my electricity bill, and of course that's what we gotta get drilling with that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that XYZ, and we gotta get it in the left and in the right and in the concomitant where we have now to be in the domain, right? So we're just gonna go a little bit on the other side. The other day we went on the other side, just that I want to check those concrete places, and now that I see that work, and again, whether my memory comes back or not is not really important, because I died several times. I'm not who I was before COVID. I died during COVID, changed my name, Adrian Hannah Dragon. Still got to pay that money to officially change it. Change it, because I don't want to use the dead name anymore. And I'm a pro-labor and love universal revolutionary centrist democratic Republican. You get that 50-50 Donald Trump. My democratic republicanism, pro-labor and love, N.A.C.W.P, let's get the foundations. The North American Collective Workers Party, the North American Collective Workers Party, the North American Collective Workers Party, the N.A.C.W.P, the North American Collective Workers Party, aka the Phoenix People's Party. That's why we're gonna get that drill, and we're gonna fuse, not annex, but fuse Canada, United States, and the king is absent. It's time for the Republic. And that's all we got. That's why we gotta get that rock and roll, and gonna build the fort. Let's build the fort. This, when I see this, makes me think that this is the kind of the beginning of building the Forgotten Goddess Temple, because I credit me surviving, and probably would have been dead if I would have stayed where I used to live. And I died in many ways, you know, being reborn, Adrian Hannah Dragon, and laying the foundations for the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom with 718 trillions of kisses. Kisses I got by the trillions, marching steps. Kisses I got by the trillions, marching steps with that. And you see all these marching steps and kisses I got. And we're going to build together the Forgotten Goddess Temple. You know? Forgotten Goddess Temple. The Forgotten Goddess Temple, this has to be recycled, because if it starts snowing and raining, this is going to go inside and this is going to deteriorate. It's not compostable, right? So it's reusable, but it's not compostable. Let's double check. But no, usually these are, you can recycle it. And even though there's no recycling sign really, they're reusable, they say, but they're kind of cloth, right? So they're cloth really, but they are not necessarily, they don't really have the recycling sign on it, interestingly enough. I was looking and see unless there's internal recycling, you know, there's 3 arrows there, but I guess not. So that's how we're gonna have to do the discernment, eh? So seeing all these concrete, gotta salute the public workers of the past and present and future. We're gonna build a fort. My will to build a fort, of course, is the North American Collective. See, this has to be recycled also. Because if these go, see, they already started melting, for example. I don't mind y'all smoking. See, they're twins. A bit different color, but they're still twins. So these have to be recycled. See, they already started melting a bit. They're wet, wet, wet. So I guess the bacteria, germs is killed by the killing thereof. So they have to be recycled because this can deteriorate if it starts raining here. See, this is going to start to rain and then they're going to be deteriorating. They're going to be deteriorating and it's going to go cause those chemicals here on the side. It's going to cause damage. So it's going to cause fundamental damage to the environment. See this beautiful red and all this flora fauna here, which we have, of course. It is that causation which we have, of course, to appellate about all our representations now where we exist in the plurality of all the domains where we got now. To be loving with that. So all these concrete, thank you public workers who build the highways, all the highways here. This is quite a privilege, eh? To have highways, electricity, running water. Civilization is a privilege. That was my thesis, and now my brain switches to, maybe you guessed, maybe you didn't, maybe you speculated, you assume much, but maybe you're gonna clarify that I'm now also turning to calculation again, estimation, calculation of all these cars which are eating money, and they are generally spending more than round about 70-75% than in early 2020 and before 2020, because average price of gas February 2020 for the island of Montreal was 93 cents. So now this year the average price, although at one point about 3 years ago I remember it was 225. Wow, so that was more than double. So for a few weeks, like 4 weeks at 225, 222, it was more than double than just 3.5 years before. But that wasn't long, but then it dropped again. But that was, I remember that was hardcore, eh? So seeing all these constructions here with the public workers, and gonna not forget to mention that I will to build with your help. Construction workers gonna credit some feet washing, massage therapy sessions, whatever needs to be done with that kisses and those tickles if there is to be done, something in that consequence, to build and to see, of course, the building of the four. The forgotten goddess temple. The forgotten goddess temple. Forgotten goddess temple. The forgotten goddess temple, you know. The forgotten goddess temple. The forgotten goddess temple, you know. Forgotten goddess temple. The forgotten goddess temple. You heard that correct. To be 11 times bigger than the... Here in Montreal we have the... Oratory of St. Joseph's. See, and this one is light. There's light in that one. There's light in that one. There's light in 4. But actually, I think it reflects. Hey, it reflects. Kind of cool. Right? There's light in those 4 different lights. Those 4 are a light. Anyway, so build a forgotten goddess temple, credit those kisses, and a past life as I am in this one, a priestess. I was many past lives from ancient Egypt, ancient Sumer, Babylon. I was also the priestess, as I am priestess Hannah with those trillions of kisses, dancing, marching boots with it. Priestess Hannah laying the foundations of the empire with 718 trillions of kisses. I am the priestess Hannah, 718 trillions of kisses, as I was the priestess of the... priestess in ancient times, many times a priestess, sometimes a farmer. And if you're interested in reincarnation, read George Patton, Through a Glass Darkly, one of my favorite poems of General Patton. He didn't mention that he's female woman incarnation, but he was my wife once, George Patton. George Patton was my wife once, and I was his wife, so we were in one incarnation, one past life, 2,600 years ago. Me and George Patton, we were man and wife and woman. So I was his wife, and he was my husband, and I was his husband and wife. So read George Patton's Through a Glass Darkly, that poem. It's called Through a Glass Darkly, and myself, I was the priestess. Was priestess Pythia, who orated the great Lycurgus, the Rithria, who orated the great Rithria to Lycurgus as priestess Pythia, the oracle Delphi in a past life. I was the priestess Pythia, who orated the great Rithria to Lycurgus in a past life. So, past life, previous incarnation. So, as I am the priestess of our coming empire now, with trillions of kisses, lay the foundations with trillions of kisses right here, trillions of kisses, and trillions of marching steps, and let's build the 4 on the Canadian-US border. Let's build the biggest ever build Imperial Sports Arena Coliseum, to build the biggest ever sports arena Coliseum ever built. on the Canadian-US border to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. Caesar Superdome is, of course, the arena in New Orleans, Louisiana, New Orleans, where several Super Bowls were played, battled out, and fought and won. One of it is one of my favorites, actually. It's called Super Bowl 47. Has several nicknames. Super Bowl 47 is also known as the Hardball Bowl, aka the Bro Bowl, or Blackout Bowl, also known as those nicknames. So Super Bowl 47 has actually several nicknames. My 49ers lost, but it's one of my favorites. I actually watch it every year, sometimes even twice, 3 times, or 4 times a year. If I work out, I watch pretty much 5 Super Bowls over and over. 4 of them are my 49ers. Of course, my favorite is when we won against Chicago Bears. Of course, by 55 points, 55 to 10, by 45 points. That was a massacre, I guess. And the 5th one, most favorite. So in the top 5, I have one where it's not my 49ers. It's actually one that people didn't like that much. Is the last Super Bowl won by Tom Brady with the Patriots against the Rams. And it's the lowest ever scoring Super Bowl in history. Lowest ever Super Bowl in history. It's the lowest ever. There has never been a lower scoring Super Bowl than that one in 2019. So that one finished 13-3. So only 16 points were scored. Only 16 points. The Rams only managed a field goal. In the first 3 quarters, there were only, 6 points? First 3 quarters? Or 3 points in the first 3 quarters? Something like that. But it was the lowest ever scoring Super Bowl. So it finished 13-3. 13-3. That's what the Super Bowl finished. 13-3, right? That's what it finished. So it was 2 field goals and 1 touchdown, 1 missed field goal. So 13-3, that was the final score, only 16 points. That was one of my favorites as well. Not a lot of people liked it, but there was a lot of defense, and time management. A weird, awkward quarterback time management and strange defense, Strange defense and time. It was time management, almost like it was the majority of the game was defensive time management, and quite a peculiar game. But if you notice, there's quite a beauty of football. The football, North American football gridiron is my second favorite sport. My favorite sport is dancing. Dancing is always number 1 for me, and I love dancing. I dance for hours as the priestess of our empire, dancing and kisses. And of course, the dancing is my favorite sport. So after that is gridiron. I love boxing, women's hockey, and men's hockey, and basketball, and all sports and fitness activity. But dancing is my favorite sport. And I love twerking, but twerking, Priestess Hannah gets it a little bit, but I'm getting better at twerking, I guess, over the years. I gotta practice more, but yeah, I gotta ensure that Rainbow Dragon Priestess Hannah booty for $1 trillion. And black and white and generals only, black and white and generals only, black and white and generals only, black or white or rainbow, but generals only, black or white or rainbow, but generals only, black or white or rainbow, but generals only, So we gotta build that Imperial People's Coliseum to be on the Canadian-US border, 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome, which had several names. Caesar Superdome, of course, was known as the Mercedes-Benz Superdome before. Well, no, Caesar Superdome was known as the Mercedes-Benz Arena, and before that it was known as the Louisiana Arena. So basically that same stadium got some upgrades, and it changed names, just like I changed names. And during COVID I died. I'm being reborn, nothing that I will to go back to, but changed names and changed many incarnations. And this, as I died during COVID, I guess I'm on my fourth rebirth in this past 11 years. And Adrian Hannah Dragon, nothing that I will to go back to, but still have to pay, still have to pay and to change my name officially. And that is that drill with that, and that's just what we have to do, for the left and the right and in the middle, and all the consequential appellations what we have now, in the dynamics of our being and loving, and building those 4 is my dream, part of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, and build the Imperial People's Coliseum, Imperial People's Coliseum. to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. Caesar Superdome. Yeah. The Caesar Superdome. Caesar Superdome. Caesar Superdome is where my 49ers lost only by 3 points in Super Bowl 47, and to be inspired by that one, but to be 11 times bigger on the Canadian-US border, built Canada-United States to symbolize the beginnings of our fusion, the rising of our democratic Imperial Republic, for SSDL, Security Service and Defense Coast to Coast, and joy, 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 and to build also the Forgotten Goddess Temple. Forgotten Goddess Temple, you know, Forgotten Goddess Temple, to be 11 times bigger than the 11 times bigger than the to be 11 times bigger than the, you bet. Here in Montreal we have the oratory, St. Joseph's Oratory. So we have that St. Joseph's Oratory and the Forgotten Goddess Temple to be 11 times bigger than the St. Joseph's Oratory with that, and to build a pyramid, House of the Dragon. The House of the Dragon. What a so beautiful, beautiful, beautiful dog. I can't pet them that much, eh? I can't pet them much because I sneeze fur, you know, so these ones I gotta stay afar. So I'm gonna admire them from afar, you know, except if they're poodles. So you see one of my videos about a few months ago. It gets close, and then if it gets close to my face, I get allergic reactions. Not severe, but semi-allergic reactions. I just start sneezing, you know, like achoo, 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 from the fur, the thickness. I'm pretty sure from these I would be allergic if they get close to my face because of the fur, but not poodles. I guess poodles are considered hypoallergenic, but it's the thickness and the length of the fur, you know. Besides that, I don't have any really known allergies. I just have lots of scars and have trouble remembering my life prior to winter 2014, January, February, which is a long time ago because we're October 2025, and that's, let's say, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. Well, it's not November, so it's March. November is coming soon, but it's March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and we're October. So more than 11 years and a half ago. More than 11 years and a half ago. Wow, more than 11 years and a half ago. It's a long time, eh? So it doesn't really matter, I guess. I died, and that's down rock and roll with that, and that's how you gotta get that drill. And wow, well, just a pure white dog, just amazing, eh? So let's build a Rainbow People's Palace as well. Rainbow People's Palace. That is something else which I will to build, you know? The Rainbow People's Palace. Definitely something to build and consider. And this one I'm gonna put there on the side, and I get that drill here. Rainbow People's Palace. To build a Rainbow People's Palace, you know, for my fellow neurodivergent community and N.A.C.W.P community, and the House of the Dragon, pyramid. That's scarlet, you know, scarlet, crimson. Scarlet and crimson are basically shades of red. Scarlet and crimson are shades of red. In other words, it's scarlet and crimson are like shades of red, right? So let's build those four together. And now we're gonna just drill into geopolitics. Leave the bags at the door. Geopolitics, I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and geopolitics is my special field and domain and area of interest, you know. Area of interest, so of course those areas of interest are for me geopolitics. It's sports and fitness geopolitics 24/7. Sports and fitness geopolitics, you know. geopolitics, sports and fitness, geopolitics. As I'm celebrating 6 years since I have predicted in a general manner what is happening now. What is happening now. So I predicted what's happening now in a general manner, not in a detailed manner. In a general manner, I predicted an international conflagration. An international conflagration. An international conflagration. A World War III, in other words. And I have the proof because I have the videos online, right? I have the videos online. The first video which I posted in consequence was October 17th. October 17th, 17, 2020, correction, October 17, 2019. 2019, October 17 is the first day, the first video in the sequence and the series. And of course, today I'm marking 6 years since that event, marking 6 years since that event. So I predicted what's happening now. However, what I did not predict was that there will be a deterioration of relations with the United States. With the United States. With the United States. So that I did not predict. A deterioration of relations with the United States. Right? So that I did not predict. That there will be a deterioration of relations with the United States. I did not predict that at all. I did not predict that at all. And this is new because my prediction was basically during Donald Trump's first presidency, right? Because Biden was president after, right? The second Trump second term now occurred after Biden had an interregnum, right? Can I use the Latin terminology, interregnum, basically to say in between, or in between, reflective of the internal domestic brothers and sisters in the United States realities. And myself, I was born 3 times in the United States. Once as a woman, I was born once as a woman, twice as a man, and served, of course, in the United States Armed Forces, you know. Served in the United States Armed Forces, 2 different wars, same armed forces. It's 2 different wars, though. The wars were 156 years apart, but same U.S. Army. 2 different wars, same U.S. Army, and that's consequently where we have, of course, to be prepositioned in all the domains and all those manifestations where we have now, that those are just the realities where we are to be alive with, not today. And the in a parallel manner, or integrated with my prediction, was also the creation of a workout training program system, of which myself have performed more than 372 sessions thereof, officially titled the General War Integrated Total Body Training System. The General War Integrated Total Body Training System is a workout training program system which requires no equipment. And I'm very proud of having created it. You can see hundreds of videos online. It is a simple, effective workout. It's not meant to develop aesthetics, right? For muscular development, for the beautification, for beautiful muscles, or for aesthetics, right? It is meant to increase general overall fitness, have been for years now, especially during COVID, advocated for the incorporation in all the security forces of NATO. It is myself as a NORAD, North American centric. I'm a North American fundamentally, as much as I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, thinker, and strategist. I develop strategies for, first and foremost, for the North American Collectif, because as much as I know the governance of China, the Alexander Dugin's philosophies, which are pretty much parallel Putin's geopolitical visions and doctrines and dogmas and ideologies and philosophies, and the Middle East conflict, I am a North American, right? Fundamentally, I lived here, you know, all my life, and this is what I know. In many past lives, I was born here as well, sometimes a man and woman in the United States 3 times post 7076. I was born a woman once in the United States post 7076, and twice as a man. I served in the same United States Army, but the wars were 156 years apart. 156 years apart. So that is just that reality. But back now in 2025, as I'm marching now for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, plumbers, electricians, the firefighters, the grocery store clerks, all the truckers, all the welders, the construction workers, the butchers, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, all those now who are, of course, circumferential, of course, in all the aspects, representational, of course, of the ideas and the theories behind the manifestation, of course, of all the domain of where we have now. Integrally, also the train conductors, eh? Somebody gotta love them, eh? Somebody gotta love the train conductors and the ones who build it, eh? The railways, for us to move east, west, north, south. And since 2023, Kansas City and CP merged. For the first time, we have a rail system that goes all the way deep into Mexico, the country of Mexico, not New Mexico, the country of Mexico, border to the United States, which borders the United States. Since 2023, that was the biggest, I think, even worldwide, I think that's the biggest railway merger ever, right? Big railways created this Canadian Pacific Kansas City rail, right? And that's integral to our North American integral defense collective, and of course for security service, and integral to the economic development, where we have, of course, to get the economics inside the plateau, of course, of all the circumferential positions where we are now involved. That it is the fact that at this second, moment and minute, there's thousands of trucks, and there's the trucks in parallel to the trains which are transporting the grain, the butter, the bread, all the things which are essentially nutritious for the North American Civilizational Collective in its maintaining what I call, of course, what I know to be true, what we are fundamentally as Quebecers, Canadians, as myself as a Canadian North American, American Canadian, always for the 63 North Americans. Although we're gonna fuse the true North, strong and free, we gotta have some loving. The king is absent. It's time for the Republic. The king is absent. And imagine we are going to fuse the true North, strong and free with the land of the free and the home of the brave. Right? We're not annexing. We're merging with the American people. We're going to merge with the American people, and we're going to become a new people. See, as my cousin there passed and doing a little bit of jogging, salute all brothers and sisters who go on their fitness journey and their safety, their liberty, you know. I love to see people working out safely, and their safety, their liberty, their joy. My liberty, my joy as an individual sovereign citizen to call, of course, as I've been calling for the mass financing of fitness across the North American collective. So it's something which we have, of course, to represent in the domains and all the domains where we have now. So all that circumferential is to say, for the domains and for the liberty and for the left and for the right and in the middle, and the understanding thereof of all these pluralities of the domains where we have now that we are under the stars on earth, you know. I know I'm probably not going to get many or any friends with benefits, you know. I've got plenty of scars and on my body, on my face, and I'm weird, I'm strange. But you know what? For me, you make LOVE. Otherwise, what are we going to fight to save, defend for, you know? It's to save from Armageddon for what? The billionaires, they got the paper, bankers, financiers, millionaires, billionaires, owners of the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB, play their contracts, buy, trade, sell, future option puts. My work is important. If I see other people hugging and making LOV, you know, that's always good for me as well, because otherwise, what are we saving for? It's not all about the money, eh? It's not all about the money. Sometimes there's some principles, some justice, eh? Some second, third, fourth chances, and I sing that rock and roll for the boys and girls in blue, you know. The security forces, NORAD, Canada, United States. Also for the brothers and sisters who do their criminal rehabilitation and take their second and third chances. Also my brothers and sisters for blacks, eh? My neighbors included, and you know, the North American collective in our empire, in Draconis and the DGA, I wouldn't have it otherwise, but to have black, white, and rainbow, you know, 13.4, 13.3, 13.4% of both Canada and the United States are my brothers and sisters for blacks, black men and women, you know. So we gotta get that good together, and all who come to join us here, you know, in the empire, and of course in the empire, in the consequential positions where we are now, to be relative about all the domains where we have to relegate our individual and the collective and these aspects in the manner where we live, where we have also as individuals and as collective the privilege of civilization. You see the lights, to have the lights there, the transportation, all this was built with brains and muscle. millions of workers. So now back to the realities, the geopolitical realities of today, which I have predicted in 2019, in October 17, 2019. That was my prediction. Of course, that was my prediction where we have now. So that was the prediction, you know. That was the prediction. That was the predictions, right? That was the predictions, you know. That was the prediction. That was what I predicted. No? That was what I predicted. So that was the great prediction, that we will reach an international conflagration, a World War III. World War III. Basically, which is, some say it has started. I'm just gonna drop a line on my workout which I created, which I encourage all to try out. I am encouraging, of course, the citizens, of course, from high schools and incorporated in high schools, and as I believe in, we have to increase in physical education, and free physical education in Canada and the States, concomitantly and in all those relations where we have now. So the General War Integrated Total Body Training System, aka the Draconis, aka the 300 workout, aka the officially the title of my workout, which I created in 2019 in October when I have created it. Keep in mind that I created it to go hand in hand with a workout, with a World War III scenario, an international conflagration, a type of situation that we live in today. And again, although I predicted the international, global, worldwide World War III scenarios and parallel, all that comes with it, the economic hardships, financial and social, cultural and geographical and internal, right? I did not predict Donald Trump's re-election, because when I predicted this, Donald Trump was ending his first term, right? Because it was 2019 October. So it was just before the elections, right? Before the elections, where of course a few weeks after, where Biden got elected, right? So I did not predict a Trump re-election and the deterioration of relations with the United States, you know. That is new for me. The deterioration of relations with the United States is new for me as well. So that I also have to take into account. So although I predicted an international conflagration, I did not predict the deterioration of relations with the United States, right? So now what I'm going to say, you have to affirm with a yes, 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 yes. You cannot say no. You cannot say maybe. Now you have to say and state it in all the domains where we are now. You have to affirm it with a yes. Yes, yes, yes. What, with a yes, because it's no, no, and it's not maybe. This is a reality which I'm going to pronounce myself, and it's just like the pie symbol. Not the edible pie, the apple pie, blueberry pie, strawberry pie, chocolate pie, vanilla pie, or pumpkin pie, etc. All types of pie. The pie in mathematics is a symbol, is like the letter N for the letter N for neutral, neurodivergent, neurotypical, Normandy, Norma, natural. The N letter is like two-headed. That's why coming of our empire will have kind of like two heads, two faces. One for benevolent goodness and kindness and loving, the other one for more punishment and severity and strength and justice. So that is just the counterbalance of this. The N is two-headed, it has like two heads, two faces, and it's the letter N, and it's the symbol pi, which is the number represents always the constant number 3.1415 is the relation between the circumference and the diameter and the circumference of a circle. So it's the relation, proportional relation between the diameter and the circumference of a circle. The diameter and the circumference of a circle. So that is what you have to keep in mind. So it's always the same. It's a constant. So that's what I'm going to say now in terms of geopolitics for the North American Collective. It is a constant. It has been so for decades, ever since at least the dissolution of the British Empire, because the king is absent now. I believe Canada, we should have been a republic, started January 1st, the year 2000, right at the turn of the millennium, because you know that Uncle Connie and Trudeau, the prime ministers, pledged allegiance to the King of England and his heirs. Uncle Connie pledged allegiance to the King of England and his heirs. Did you know that Uncle Carney pledged allegiance 4 months and some for a few weeks ago? Went to Cranes, Canada. Pledged allegiance to the King of England and his heirs, not to the Constitution and the people of Canada. Uncle Carney pledged allegiance to the King of England and his heirs. Still the hereditary. That's why to reconcile, to fuse, that gotta go. It's time for the Republic. The RCMP is gonna become the Republican Canadian Federal Police Force. Canadian Federal Police Force. Canadian Federal Police Force. And we're going to fuse it with the FBI because we're going to fuse in the Imperial Police Forces, and our army is going to fuse, join. But I'm going to get to that. Just I want to finish the statement that I'm going to make now. So this is both for Canada and the United States. It's reciprocal. It's a yes, 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 yes. Both from the Canadian perspective and the USA perspective. So both Kanye and Trump, Granddaddy Trump, and Uncle Kanye, you might have great advisors in other matters, but not in geopolitics. Whoever is advising you in geopolitics sucks, is average, is mediocre, is beyond. Now myself, I'm mediocre, I'm average, I'm so-so. I suck at certain things. Paradoxically, due to Asperger's, HFA, I suffered, struggled, and have difficulties with certain things. When it comes to other things, I'm excellent, good, super, and extra good. That's why we have to work together, the 1% and the 99%. So here lies the fundamental mystique, the central mystique over the party, which we're going to find together to fuse, and we're going to fuse Canada in our universal revolutionary centrism to maximize public-private partnerships, PPPs, as the People's Phoenix People's Party, as the Phoenix People's Party, the N.A.C.W.P, the North American Collective Workers' Party, to rebuild and only to strategize for internal SSDL, security, service, and defense, and NATO-centric preemptive defense, NATO-centric preemptive defense, NATO-centric preemptive defense, NATO-centric preemptive defense protocols. I'm gonna elaborate on that in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead as we meet. We're gonna meet on December 24th to 25th for the summit. Pledge your allegiance to our family, and the April 8th, 9th, 10th, and we're gonna rock and roll with that. So now, what I was gonna say before, and now I'm gonna say now, back to the statement that you have to accord with a yes, both from both my fellow Canadians and my brothers and sisters in the United States. You have to accord with a yes. When it comes to foreign affairs, the #1 country for both Canada and the United States in reciprocity, with the country and the state with which we have to establish the best economic, social, financial, military, defense relations with, for Canada is the United States, and for the United States is Canada. Although the United States, you have a border, we have a border. I'm going to say we, because I'm part of American myself, with Mexico. With Mexico, right? So that's why you have to accord it, you have to say yes. You cannot say no. You cannot say no. That is just the reality. So of course that reality is of course concomitant and in the poised of all the relationships and the faculties which we have internal in the domains to accord it with a yes, right? With a yes. So there's no other way thereof, right? There's no other way thereof. Because of our common history, common collective future, because we constitute a collective North American civilizational complex, which is not divorced, but is distinct from Western civilization. But is distinct from Western civilization. But is distinct from Western civilization. So this distinction is, of course, the reality which we have now to do and to be inside, of course, all the civilizational complex where we have now the dynamics and the wealth and the affluence, of course, to do it in the concomitantly where we live, of course, in the domains where we got that plurality, of course, for all the representative actions where we regulate our internal affairs in a manner for SSDL completely. So, of course, all that manifestation now is to say, of course, that the relations thereof have to be maximized to the fullest extent to work to establish the most friendly, beneficial, economic, financial, military, defense relations with the United States. That is the constant. That's why I said just like it's the pi symbol is a constant, so is my statement a constant and has been for decades. You cannot argue with that. You cannot even say maybe. That is just also, of course, because of our geography, the geographical realities. The Atlantic and the Pacific. To the east we have the Atlantic, to the west we have the Pacific. That is just the reality of the geographical manners. The geographical reality of our geography, right, as the Dominion, where the king is absent. It's time for the Republic, and my way to fuse Canada and the United States best in the democratic Republican manner, the public-private partnership, to lay the financial foundations for the Dancing Goddess Army, the DGA, the Dancing Goddess Army, the Dancing Goddess Army, of course, the Dancing Goddess Army, the DGA, the Dancing Goddess Army, the Imperial Integrated Dance League, with the Dragon Army, the Imperial Integrated SSD Legion, and based the future for via several of my protocols and initiatives and philosophies, such as the Total Dragon 911, the integrated security integrated protocols, because 911 is both for Canada and United States, right? And we're going to add also not what exists now, but also services, with the Dragon Army services, XYZ, the body is a temple for pleasure and purpose, and be of service as we can, because we're going to balance the public and the private. So now I'm going to discuss the DMAA theory, the direct military assistance and action, because it's pertinent to our discussion, of course, for where we're going to move in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead as a mass public-private partnership, which we must fundamentally establish. So the DMAA, the direct military assistance and action, is super important that you pay close attention thereof to the DMAA, direct military assistance and action. So it's NATO-centric, so it's not just a theory, it's a work tool, it's a protocol to be established and followed for NATO member countries, and wherever we manifest and formulate and change this alliance and transform it in the 21st century via the Dragon Army protocols and Total 911s with Total Police State for Security, Service and Defense in the insurance of liberty thereof protocols. That is the relations what we have now. So all that relations is the relationships where we are now. So that is the representations. That is the representation thereof. So that matter is, of course, the formulation where we are now. So left and right and left, it is the relation that we have to be the universal revolutionary centrism. Again, it's universal revolutionary centrism, which I'm not going to diverge to incorporate that philosophy into the DMA, but it's something which goes parallel to all my other theories, because they're pretty much integral to the dream, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, which is fundamentally fusing Canada and the United States in the mass public-private partnership, but it could be extended to our allies in NATO and then for world peace as well. So the DMAA is strictly related to NATO. The motto of NATO is Animus in Consuelo Liber, that's Latin. The motto of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization member states, which were a military defense alliance. And gotta mention that before October 7, 2023, I had lectured a 4-part lecture series. So I had lectured a 4-part lecture series, and the 4-part lecture series were involved in the 4-part lecture series was called Genesis 33 NATO Protocols. I was advocating for both Israel and Mexico to be included in NATO prior to the October 7th attacks. Right? October 7th. Prior to the October 7th attacks. Right? Prior to the October 7th attacks. The October 7th attacks, of course, caused the war, and now is the ceasefire holding? Guess I'm going to have to revise it when I go back home, because that's what I'm going to do for a few more hours before I go to bed. Geopolitics, since 3 things that never sleep. Money never sleeps. The expression money moolah, money, cash. Money never sleeps. There's always forex. Foreign exchange is still the biggest market out there. Of course, money never sleeps. And something else, the sun always sets, always rises. Every minute there's a sunrise and a sunset. Now the sun is setting here in Montreal. There's still a time zone difference for the West Coast, in that Vancouver, British Columbia, and San Francisco. And in Asia, China, Japan, Taiwan, South and North Korea, Australia, India, Indonesia, Philippines, and Myanmar, Burma, all those countries in Asia, they're experiencing now a sunrise. Thursday, October 23rd, the sun is rising now. There's Thursday already. The sun is rising, so geopolitics, politicians, they go to meet other politicians and diplomats, and they have diplomatic exchanges and negotiations and trade deals and security deals or reinforcement or revising, etc., etc., etc. Voting even. Japan got the first woman prime minister, by the way. Japan. So that's something which we're going to check out and explore the philosophies thereof, whether left, center, and right wing, center, right wing. For the North American Collective, my Universal Revolutionary Centrism best, even for NATO, where we are now, where we have reached now. So the DMAA, it's a philosophy, it's a theory, it's a work tool for NATO. I'm going to discuss it. So the DMAA stands for Direct Military Assistance and Action. Again, it has nothing to do with humanitarian aid, providing humanitarian aid, right? So that has to be clearly understood. Humanitarian aid is not included here. That it's strictly military, and it has consequences in parentheses. So the DMAA, standing for Direct Military Assistance and Action, is when NATO countries, or NATO as a group, and Sweden is the last one to join. And again, my genesis before October 7th, I was advocating via the protocol Genesis 33, which is based on the biblical verses of the book of Genesis 33, where the two twins reconciled, made a military pact and alliance, and they embraced and they made an alliance. So before October 7, 2023, which is Israel's 9/11, and interestingly enough, NATO's Article 5, which is the Common Collective Defense for Common Response, military-wise and defense-wise, security-wise, Article 5 was only invoked once in its 75-year history. NATO is founded in 1949, and in its 75-year history, the article was only invoked once. 9/11. Supposedly I was in physics class in high school when 9/11 happened. In high school, I was finishing high school when 9/11 happened. So that is the complementarity of it. So that is just the relationships where we have now to be and to relegate our dimensions. So of course, all that proposition thereof is to restate and recalibrate, and of course in the representative plurality of the domain where we have to live with today, to discuss the DMAA and its consequences. So it has to do in NATO member countries when we get military involvement, when we involve ourselves militarily. So for example, Canada providing armaments, munitions, drones, helmets, weapons, armored vehicles, assisting militarily Ukraine in the war on Russia, because Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, Pakistan, other countries were not part of NATO, and they have conflicts now and conflicts now, right? So when we assist military, we create adversarial powers which are hostile, which might even take action by secret police, by hacking, by even financing and supporting transnational criminal syndicate organizations, such as the one that just last year, you know, the RCMP dismantled the biggest ever drug super lab, October 25th. The RCMP dismantled the biggest ever drug super lab, October 25th. Is going to be, in 3 days, is going to be 1 year. So good job, bravo, well done, the RCMP, on that. Gonna say clap a bit, and good job, because that one super lab that they dismantled was the biggest ever in Canadian history in Surrey, BC. You know, it had weapons and munitions and money, and it had 95 million doses of fentanyl, which could have potentially killed the population of Canada twice over. I get shivers when I discuss it. It could have killed the population of Canada twice over, brothers and sisters. We have an emergency, big crisis here. Big crisis. Can you imagine? Twice over. Twice over. Twice. The population, twice over. So that is just, of course, the reality where we have to be, of course, in the dimension now. That is just the reality. Can you imagine that one drug super lab could have killed so many just children, innocent children on it, and others, you know? Twice over, just that one super lab. More and more I'm designating this fentanyl as a bioweapon, because it doesn't make sense from a drug trade, because the drug dealers, kingpins, want to make that money to buy 44 cars, 4 houses, 4 planes, whatever the case may be, and you know, $50,000 an hour luxury sex workers, whatever the case may be. But because these people are dying and it's so nefarious, I believe it's more like a bioweapon. And Russia or China, because of our involvement, because of the DMA that I just mentioned, they're like military assistance or action, or it could be both. It could be action or assistance to non-NATO member countries, which create that adversarial, and they might harm us because of that assistance which NATO countries provide to non-NATO member countries, can potentially kill their soldiers. So thus they justify it by maybe financing, helping transnational criminal syndicate organized groups, such as the one that was in, such as the one that was in here, Canada, last year, that the RCMP dismantled. What if that transnational criminal syndicate organized group, what if it had 5 labs? That means there's 1 down, there's 4 to go. There's 4 to go, 4 to go, 4 to go, 4 to go. Maybe there's 1 in Quebec, maybe 1 in Yukon, maybe 1 in Manitoba, 1 in Ontario, maybe 1 in New Brunswick, all across Canada. And that was just 1. And you know, since August 1st, we're designated, the United States government, we're designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat. We're designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat. So if we're designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat, you know, that means that by the United States, you know, we are designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat by the United States, Since August 1st, the United States designated us as an unusual and extraordinary threat. I'm just recycling, you know, those little 2 that I picked up from there. So, since August 1st, we're designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat by the United States. We're designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat by the United States. Somebody left these weird things here. I'm gonna have to disinfect my hands. I don't know what these are. Oh my gosh. 4. I don't know if this can be recycled, some of them. What are these? Let's see. I have to disinfect the hands. I don't know what that is. It's in Russian, right? It's in Russian. Yeah, that's I know the Russian word. In a past life, I was born in Russia. I lived in Russia in a past life. So RU is for Russia. Cinema, Russia. So then you have that. 1998 it says. And that is the word, see there? So I'm going to show you. That is the Russian word for Russia there, see? I'm going to show you a Russian word. See that? P-O-C-C-N-N, that's Russia. Russia, that's Russia. Russia. Russia, that's the word for Russia. And that's the word for Moscow. Moscow. 1998. I don't remember VHS me. I know about it, but after all, sometimes my memory will come back. It's just... But it's interesting that they have the barcode, in Russia in 1998. I guess they introduced the barcode. But here it actually says 1979, see? CCCP 1979. So they're produced, interestingly enough, they're produced from Soviet Union production, 79. I'm gonna save them from... I'm gonna disinfect what? Oh, it says number 4. Oh, it says number 4 there, see? Where's the number 1? Okay, this is 1. See, it says 1. See, there's number 1 there. So this from 1979. CCCP, that's Soviet Union, and I guess they remade them in 1998. Because that's why we have the code bar from Moscow. It says Moscow there, and then the CCCP, it became Russia. So it must be from the, yeah, it's from the Soviet Union times, eh? CCCP 1979. See, that's number 1, that's number 2 and 3, and that's number 4. So it's a series from the Soviet Union times, CCCP. Wow. But me, I know mostly DVDs. I don't remember using VHS. It's VHS, and this is also from Russia, also from Moscow. But that's I believe that's Georgian, right? Georgian script. So is this also from the time of the Soviet Union? Somebody I left them here on the bench. Four. So these are 4 seasons, and you got 4. You got 1, 2, 3 that are the same. And is that the whole series maybe? So I got basically 5 different ones, because these are 2. See, 1, 2, and these ones 2. So I'm gonna put them in the backpack. I'm gonna inspect them more. I'm gonna disinfect my hands. I'm gonna disinfect them as well. I'm gonna try to figure out what it is, what they are. Or make a short video on, ask somebody if somebody knows online what they are. 1979. Gonna use my disinfectant, you know, because you never know, there's bacteria, microbes, and germs, you know. And a lot of the satellites date from the 60s and 70s, the satellites we have today, GPS, and the Soviet Union was the first one to have launched a satellite. First satellite was the Soviet Union. So I'm just gonna use some disinfectant to disinfect, and biological weaponry, and the dead hand system still is operational. And Russia has built in the 21st century some pretty hardcore weaponry, the avant-garde one is pretty hardcore, avant-garde missiles, and their ICBMs can actually reach. Interesting, because I was made at Moscow, the ICBMs from Russia, from Moscow, because those are from Moscow, as you saw. But I know how to read a little bit of Russian, not too much, just the word for Russia, word for Moscow, things of that nature. From Moscow to Montreal, to here to Montreal, from Moscow to Montreal is 8,500 kilometers. So Russia has, Federation of Russia has ICBM rockets, intercontinental ballistic missiles, which can travel 10,500 kilometers. 10,500 kilometers. 10,500 kilometers. That means that if from Moscow to Montreal it's 8,500, you do the math. 10,500 minus 8,500 is 2,000. So they can even furthermore go all the way to the prairies, all the way to the prairies. Yeah? They can go all the way to the prairies. So we're gonna go check the Habs game and gonna get it on that drill. All right, so wow, because if it would have rained, it would have polluted them there, eh? So they were on the bench right there where I went to do the recycling and drop some garbage. The 2 things that I picked up to recycle on the way. So the DMAA, the Direct Military Assistance in Action. The Direct Military Assistance in Action. That is just the representation about it. So we have those 4 there. We have those 4. So those are things which we have to state about. Quite interesting, eh? If you think about it, what it was, and couldn't be my parallel self, but my parallel self is in the year 2029, and a time machine. It's impossible. So the Direct Military Assistance in Action is consequentially what you have to focus on, and we have to put it as a workflow from now on, whether we take action or we assist in the future. Whether we take action or assist in the future. right? So whether we take action or assist in the future. Because it could be potentially that if we take action or we don't take action, assist or not, it's possible that countries can support transnational criminal syndicate organized groups like the one I just mentioned that the RCMP seized because of our involvement, or assist because of the DMAA, direct military assistance or action. It could be both. Action is direct military strikes, for example, against ISIL, in Libya, in Belgrade, Yugoslavia. That's direct action. Assistance is providing, it has to be military though, so it doesn't include hygienic products or anything of that matter, you know. If you see the lights saluting the ambulance drivers, our security forces, and if you see the lights, just make sure you drive safely, do the Imperial integrated full circle domains, and that's just what we're gonna do. So now we're gonna discuss the DRT. Super important to focus on the DRT, the debt refusion theory, which I'm gonna explain now. So the DRT, we have to implement it both Canada and United States. Canada and United States, we have to implement the DRT because due to the fact that we have four main problems economically, and the DRT integrates CIT, citizen integrate. My DRT, debt refusion theory, integrates MIT, monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union in the 90s. So basically, my DRT, debt refusion theory, one, you have to incorporate it and integrate it, right? You have to incorporate it and integrate it. So that's what it is, right? So that's what we have to do. So I'm going to discuss the DRT because of the four fundamental problems which the United States and Canada, simultaneously the majority of the citizens we are facing today, including myself. That's why my DRT, debt refusion theory, we have to implement it binationally, both simultaneously in Canada and United States. It can be expanded with other countries, even BIS, Bank of International Settlements, to avoid the world saving from financial Armageddon, which it seems that we're heading more and more every day, every week, every month, every year. For the past 4 years we have been heading there. And my DRT theory could save us from Armageddon. It's a mass public-private partnership. Institutions such as my bank, I don't have a credit card. I don't have credit cards. I have a credit line to the RBC, $10,000. And of course, it's going to require a mass financial banking system to operate and do it. But it's going to require, of course, us to do it consequently. So now, of course, the relation which I'm going to formulate thereafter and thereafter now with that is the DRT integrates the debt refusion theory, incorporates the monetary integration theory. So let's go, let's do it. So that's what we're gonna have to do now. So we're gonna I'm gonna say the four fundamental problems, of course, because I have to mention them, which are faced by most brothers and sisters in Canada and United States, which are, in whatever order. One, growing cost of living. The goods are increasing. Price of bread, butter, cheese, milk, even my wafers increased. Prices of gas, prices of public transportation also, things of that nature, right? So the growing cost of living, the growing cost of rents are increasing. Even myself, I'm not going to say because I can't complain, my rent increased between $6 and $10. Between $6 and $10, between 6 and 10. I'm not going to say how much because, of course, I'm not going to say how much because I can't complain in these matters. It's between 6 and 10 for me. So I can't complain for me because it's acceptable for me, but sometimes it's higher, which you got to object to. So we have some rules, standards, and regulations for rent control here in Montreal, but it was way lower than what it could have been allowed in percentage to increase in proportionality to what I already paid up prior last year. So I'm not going to complain. So growing cost of rents, growing cost of living, stagnation of the salaries. That's why there's more and more strikes. Stagnation of the salaries and growing credit card debt. I don't have a credit card debt. So I have a credit line. I have $10,000 in debt. So this is the DRT explained now. We're going to take all the public and the private debt, Canada coast to coast. We're going to add it up. Add ADD mathematically. We're going to add it all. We're going to convert all the public private debt to Canada. We're going to convert it into US dollars. We're going to add it with the United States public private debt and other money in circulation. We're going to create a common central bank, the Imperial Central Bank of the Democratic Republic of America. We're going to create a central bank, and we're going to, of course, issue a new currency called the UE, or the Imperial Dollar. But whether it's a dollar, a shekel, a yuan, a yen, an euro, it is fundamentally, money is a unit of exchange to buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. Whether you're black, white, or rainbow, tall, small, poor, when you buy and sell. So that's why it's going to require my citizen brother Bill Gates, BlackRock and Blackstone, and RBC. BlackRock and Blackstone are two different financial institutions, which of course diverged. Different institutions which diverged in '89, but they work together. So basically it takes both public and private institutions, financial public-private institutions and organizations such as the Federal Reserve, the Bank of Canada, and other banks to work conjointly. So we're going to take all the public-private debt, convert it to US dollar, add it with the US dollar. That money is going to be the initial money supply for a new central bank. We're going to issue the UE, U.Universal, E.Exchange, U.UE. The Universal Exchange Unit is going to have the value of the US dollar. We're going to get rid of the border, fuse the RCMP and the FBI. We're going to do a great census. See everybody who's been living here since, let's say, 2015, 2017, 2020, in the past 5, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, 11 years. If you haven't been convicted of 44 criminal convictions, you get the amnesty. If you have been convicted with 44 or 40 more convictions, then probably going to not give you the imperial pardon, Imperial Criminal Rehabilitation Act for Canada and the United States to build those 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war. We got to build those mass cities. We're going to probably Operation Imperial Dracula. Otherwise, we're going to finance tourism. We're going to finance every citizen, every season. There's 4 seasons times 4 days where travel, lodging, and expenses for dining, expenses for lodging, travel, and of course sleeping. 4 nights basically everywhere across the 63 years. We're going to fuse merge, create the Nova Civis, a new passport, a new ID, but also digital. We're going to mass finance the rebuilding of the institutions and organizations. We're going to mass finance the rebuilding of our infrastructure organization, and by financing mass tourism for all citizens 16 plus, it's going to finance a good esprit de corps. We're going to rejoice and rejuvenate, and of course the Imperial